Gears are ready.
Hello and welcome to IRC's coverage of the 2.5 hours of Monza around the Monza circuit in Asseto Corsa Competizione. Good afternoon, my name is 8 Cylinders of Fury and I am joined today by Mr. Eccentric. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, how are you?
I'm doing very, very good as well. We have an exciting race ahead of you today. 2.5 hours around Monza, preceded by a 30-minute qualifying session. The drivers are still in practice, but meanwhile, we will go ahead to the hot lap video.
Hello, my name is Babaji and I'm here to present you a hot lap around Monza by our very own Ghost. As you see him here now blasting down the main straight, it's important to focus on your braking point here and brake in a straight line, 150 meters, braking in a straight line, using all the curves needed to maximize your exit, focusing on that exit, getting the power down as early as possible. Now head on to Curva Grande. Curva Grande is a very tricky corner. You want to keep it tight initially, but you want to let the car flow wide so that you don't scrub off too much speed on the steering lock. As we head on to Del Roggio now, very tricky corner, spot your braking point, 120 meters, brake in a straight line, use as much as curve as needed, but focus on that exit, don't let your car drive wide on the gravel. As we head down to the approach of the Lesmos now, you got a late apex this, make sure the car drives wide and you maximize your speed, because the circuit is entirely about traction. Same goes for Lesmo too, clip the apex, get on the power as early as possible. The entire circuit composites of how early you get the power on and how much stable you can keep your car. That goes for the same for the Ascari section. As you want to brake in a straight line at 100 meters, use all the curves to make sure the power is getting down as much as possible. For the straight which leads onto Parabolica, you want to get as much top speed as possible. Now as we approach Parabolica now, very difficult corner, easy to understeer into it, easy to overshoot it. So focus on your braking point, 100 meters, brake in a straight line, early apex this, keep it tight, make sure you don't drive wide initially. As soon as the car's turned in, get on the power and let the car drive wide so that you can make as much as speed as possible. And that completes a hot lap around Monza.
Well, that was a lap around the Monza circuit. We are going to be expecting very high speed race today. It's going to be very interesting. Mr. Eccentric. Okay, we're sorry about that little tiny technical difficulty. We seem to have had a little issue on our side, but hopefully it should be fine now. I was just going to ask Mr. Eccentric, what are your predictions for today's race?
Yep, I'm hoping for a lot of exciting battles, and I can't wait for lap 1, turn 1, as it's infamous for causing a lot of incidents and drivers pointing in the wrong direction. But hopefully there'll be some good racing, some good battles, and yeah, good 2.5 hours of racing.
We should be just underway to qualifying here, but let me just give you a little idea of what the racing format is going to be like. So we are going to have about, I'll say 30 minutes of qualifying is what the qualifying time is, but it is going to be 30 minutes of qualifying followed by a 2.5 hour race. The 2.5 hour race is going to be a very interesting one. It's going to start around 4 p.m. in-game time, and it's going to run till about 9 p.m. in-game time. So a total of around 5 hours in-game time, or 2.5 hours real time.
Yep. Plus, it'll be interesting to see how the different cars react to the change, to the drop in temperature of track temperature. And it'll be interesting to see the strategies as well, how much, because there are 2 mandatory pit stops, and the change of tire is not mandatory. So very interesting to see who decides to change the tire and on which pit stop they decide to change the tire as well.
Yes, indeed, that'll be one of the main things to look out for. Monza's a pretty complex circuit. I think people take it for granted considering the fairly high-speed nature of it, but it is going to be interesting to see how various cars and various setups deal with the infamous corners around Monza. So we should be getting underway to qualifying just now, so we'll go ahead and go to that in a second.
So who do you feel is going to take the win today?
I believe it's going to be whoever can make their way around in the cleanest way possible, can keep a calm head for the 2.5 hours. I think the driver who can manage to basically get around without any incident is going to be the one who's going to benefit the most here today.
Absolutely.
We are still in free practice, so we will keep talking to you here for just a bit longer while we get everyone on the track for qualifying.
The chat is telling you to increase your volume by a bit.
Okay. Okay, it should be a little better now, but I'll keep looking at it and making sure.
Yep, no worries. And we are in the server. I think there's about 15 seconds left of free practice, and quali should be underway very, very soon.
Indeed. We do have a couple of custom liveries out on track for everyone to get a look at, and there are quite a few of them on track today. So it'll be interesting to see just how the drivers' creativities have flowed out onto the track here.
Yep, we have Shubham Das with his bright AMG GTR yellow color livery. Yes. Looking nice indeed.
It is looking incredibly good. We will be heading into free practice in just a second here. Although I think I'll have to reduce game audio a bit. Yes.
So do you think the drivers will be sandbagging in free practice?
I don't expect it, but obviously you can't really tell anything from the initial stages. It's all going to be unpredictable.
Yeah, looking at it, we have look at free practice timetables. We have the top 5 within a second. And then we have Masoom in P6.
I mean, if there's anything that if that free practice in real life in terms of motorsport has taught us, it's that teams try to, for the most part, hide all their secrets and keep all their trump cards hidden for a little later on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it'll be a minute here before we get into qualifying. We'll just have a look at some other drivers as they are making their way around. I think the main drivers to look out for today, don't want to be picking favorites, but the drivers to be looking out for today are some of the faster guys. You'll find them toward the top of qualifying. These are the guys that'll be, let's say, setting the track on fire, figuratively, obviously not real life, but it will be interesting to see how these drivers tackle the challenging conditions, because Monza has the capability to be very tricky.
So we have qualifying underway, I believe. We have, I think there was 5 cars. We have a nice Vodafone livery, throwback to the old McLaren Mercedes of the early 2010s.
So do apologize, but there seems to be a couple of server issues going on my side here. I will get it sorted out in just a second so that we can get to the racing.
So ladies and gentlemen, in the meantime, why don't you drop your predictions for the top 3 in the comment section below.
If you are just joining us, we are about to go on board during qualifying. We do have a 30-minute qualifying session. Now usually, had the situation been where there had been multiple drivers, we would have had the second driver and first driver, or the number of drivers would each set a qualifying lap, and then the average of those qualifying laps would be taken. But since it's a 2.5-hour race, it's a single driver teams, so I think it should be just a case of the fastest lap set by each driver should be the main one considered. Eccentric, if you were in a position to be in the race today, what are the things that you'd be keeping in mind going into the session, the qualifying session?
Green light, show them what you got.
I would just try to put a decent qualifying session. I wouldn't try to push too hard, but I would just try to get out first a decent time on board, and then in the race make the best out of that. Probably start as high as possible, and then try not to get into any incidents in turn 1 or in the future. Then just work my way up from there.
I guess traffic isn't much of a concern on Monza, but in slipstream would have been a big factor had GT3 been a sport that was more concentrated on getting the slipstream, but I don't think that's as big a factor in GT3.
Yeah, but I mean, if you can stay within 3 to 4 seconds behind a car in front, you would get sufficient advantage down the straights.
Anyways, we're just getting the session underway here. A couple of drivers getting out on track. I think it'll be important to get a feel for a track, but we assume that the drivers have gotten their practice in ahead of this race. It is a pretty long race, so consistency will be key. So drivers will be looking to get the grips and get down to business early.
Yep, absolutely. Shulumda is going through Ascari on his first flying lap.
Ascari has been a section where drivers, even the most skilled, can be caught out because it's almost a fine balance between cutting the curb as best as possible but also not unsettling the car over the curb. So it'll be interesting to see how the drivers tackle this.
Yeah. We already have the first times on board with H. Kumar with the 148.7 and Anirudh Sundar just a 10th behind.
We have the beautifully bright livery of KC, Kalpesh Chaudhary in the Bentley. Very bright livery, and it's even got some faces on the back. So
yeah, that livery does look amazing along with those faces.
It's just coming across the line there, and a 149 from him puts him in 4th place in qualifying as it currently stands.
I believe those faces as well are, one of them is Streeter and the other one is our very own washing powder Nirma. I think the IRC boys in the chat will know who they are.
Obviously the IRC guys need to be repped, and you rep those close to you, so it only makes sense in the end. Just over 25 minutes under qualifying, and we do see the track temperatures are evolving a little bit. We do have 33 degrees, which is right about where the drivers will want the temps to be. Ambient temperature is 26, and of course the track conditions based on the weather that we are seeing is beautifully optimal, so that's not going to be an issue at all for the drivers.
I believe in the race there's a 40% chance of rain as well, so it'll be interesting to see if there is any rainfall during the race. It'll make the race very interesting indeed.
timing as it currently stands. SD on provisional pole with a 1:48.381. Shubham Das putting in a fantastic lap in the Mercedes. And a couple of drivers were mentioning to me earlier before the race here, as we have a Bentley just ahead of him. I think that was KC pirouetting there.
Yep, that was Casey. As you were mentioning about the dangers of a scurry, that's exactly why. Tanish Agarwal rounding the famous Parabolica. Put a lap
for
on
a flying lap here. We'll go on board. Uh, 148, 149, just about a 149 there from him.
Yep, good enough for top 5. Good lap indeed. So we have the top 2 with the Mercedes car, and then Masoom and Anirudh in the Ferrari, and Tanish again in the Mercedes. So 3 out of the top 5 is the Mercedes. So that shows which car is the stronger car around here.
Here we have Dung Knight in the Bangalore Motorsports Racing Club Ferrari, number 52. I think in general the Ferrari is shown to be the more balanced car, but it'll be a case of trying to displace the superiority of the faster cars, the Lexuses, the Bentleys, and the Mercedes on the straights. It's going to be all about finding pace where those cars generally tend to lose out of it, but when a car is so dominant it is hard to do so. So I think most of the one-upmanship will come mostly during the pit windows, of which there are 2, because as part of the 2.5-hour race we have 2 compulsory pit stops. Couple of drivers have not set a time yet. Prathamesh Sai Electrip in the Ferrari has not set a time yet. He's currently going through the Ascari section here. It'll be interesting to see how he can get along, because he's recently told me about how he's been excited to get into ACC and how he's recently been putting a lot more effort into getting faster on the game, and we've been seeing good games from him so far. So it'll be interesting to see how well he tackles the scenario here today. I think this will be his first endurance.
Yep, absolutely. He's pretty new to ACC, and this is going to be his first endurance race, so we'll be looking forward to how he fares in the race.
Indeed.
I think he invalidated his lap, or is he starting a lap now?
I think he might be starting a lap now, so we'll go on board with him. Electrip in the Ferrari, coming through the Rettifilio chicane. Important to not get too much of the outside curb, because you can put a wheel into the gravel. The long right-hander of turn 3, heading down to the Della Roggia chicane, the second chicane. Important to carry enough speed through here but not hit the inside curbs. They are massive and they can massively destabilize the car. The sausage curb on the inside here as well. It's crucial.
I believe the stream died.
This has been a recurring issue with my computer. Unfortunately, it is unable to run Asseto Corsa Competizione stably. It was able to do so yesterday. We do apologize for the technical issues, but if you are just joining us, qualifying has gotten underway and a couple of drivers had hit the track. Banker laps thus far have been 1:48s, but that will not be definitely the final qualifying times. We will see drivers briefly slipping into the 1:47s.
Yep, we had a real SD in P1 and H. Kumar in P2 so far in the Mercedes cars, and then we have Masoom not far behind in the Ferrari in P3.
We do apologize, and we hope this doesn't become a regular feature, as this will detract from the overall experience. We will try to keep this to a minimum, but it has been confusing times, it has been pressing times, and this has been an effort to get as many people participating as possible.
And we are back, and as while we were gone, we have Masoom jumping into P1 to 48.0, inching closer to that 47 that Sil was talking about. Very good lap indeed from the Ferrari.
That is almost borderline touching the 147s, which is indeed an absolutely blistering lap around here in Monza. Some of the drivers have been telling me that you can go a lot faster. It's all about finding time in places where you wouldn't normally look for it. And the drivers have been talking about and hyping up the 146s as a sort of unicorn lap time, if you will, where all the drivers will be looking to establish themselves. But obviously, fine margins are there to be obtained and there to be explored. So it'll be all about where drivers can push themselves. And again, qualifying is only a representation of where the driver starts. It's not definitely a representation of where the driver finishes in the race, because that's all down to strategy.
Yep, absolutely.
Just over halfway through qualifying here, and we have currently Musa Masoom in P1 on a 148.0, very, very fast lap there. Separating him from the rest of the field is only 0.2 from H. Kumar in the Mercedes, and this goes against the general prediction of yesterday, when we were expecting many of the Ferraris to be a little further behind the Mercedes. But I think with the amount of work and the amount of preparation that some of the drivers put in, I think it goes beyond what car they choose. Do you agree?
Yep, absolutely. Masoom, we have known, is very well into ACC and probably has set up his car better than most of the drivers here, so it's no surprise seeing him so far up the grid.
We do have a couple of drivers who haven't yet put in a time. Oh no, Molokala has put in a time. He's put in a 1:51.1, so he should be sort of in the midfield pack. Of course, right, no driver off. The way that GT3 is it's very unpredictable, and obviously with so many drivers on the field today, it's going to be interesting to see how everything unfolds at turn 1.
Yep, we have Prakarwats and Async still to set a lap time here. Interesting, almost halfway into qualifying and two drivers have not yet set a lap.
Maybe it's
hopefully they'll get on it soon.
Maybe it's a case of fine-tuning the setup at the last minute, or maybe seeing if changes can be made, but I don't think Prakar has gone out on track even once so far, so it will be interesting to see how it unfolds for him.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't want to be starting last in an endurance race. I mean, anything can happen, but still we would want to be right up front there.
Kapil Bharat choosing to switch to the Oman Racing Vantage V8, a general fan of the Bentley. He's gone for a car that sort of exchanges high-speed brunt for a little bit of agility in the corners as well.
I think he took too much curve there in Dalaroja, which slightly unsettled his car on the exit as he makes his way through Lesmo 1, taking a lot of curve on the inside, but keeping it stable on the exit as he went to Lesmo 2. Does not take too much of the inside curve, but keeps it clean as he runs down the back straight.
I think a
into
common
Ascari.
opinion of all the drivers so far has been that Lesmo 1 is probably the most difficult corner to get absolutely right every single time, because there is no specified, as he goes a little bit wide into the entry of Ascari, that will be an invalidated lap for the couple there.
Yep, he completely missed the first apex of Ascari and then just understeered onto the gravel.
I was mentioning that Lesmo 1 has been a troublesome area for a lot of people. I think generally the common opinion has been that Lesmo 1 is the most difficult corner on the entire track.
Kapil, I think, starting his another lap. He's got a pretty nice toe from the Ferrari there. Going into turn 1. It's very important to spot your braking point here, as even a slight misjudgment and you will be going deep or going straight into the bollards. But Kapil goes through it very cleanly indeed as he goes through Curva Grande, approaching the Della Rocha chicane. Takes it very cleanly indeed. Pretty good lap so far from Kapil.
Someone in the chat has just come in with good luck 8 cycles. Thank you very much. I think I have to wish more luck to my computer rather than myself, because it's currently not doing so well. But hopefully we will try to keep the stream up for as long as possible. Endurance is probably a sport which I have gotten a lot of interest in recently, so I will like to do my best to allow everyone to see the endurance racing that IRC displays for the world to see.
Kapil goes a bit wide again in Ascari, so he seems to be having quite a bit of a trouble in that corner.
It's fine though, as long as he can get Parabolica absolutely nailed down, which I think he does, running just a little bit wide on the exit there, which is the ideal line. As long as he can get a good lap in here, he comes across the line, improves by a single position, goes from 10th to 9th. Currently sitting on a 149.2. Good lap there from Kapil in the end, all things considered.
Yes, absolutely. So with 11 minutes to go, we still have Masoom in P1 with that blistering 48.0. And Shubham, that seems to have closed the gap down to just under 10th.
Interesting choice
48.1.
from Sazit here. He has gone for the Lamborghini, which I think is a little bit of a sort of left field choice, being a car that's easily unsettled by the curbs, and a car that doesn't really like to attack the curbs as well. We saw some action from Praker during the Zolder race where he picked the Lamborghini. Unfortunately, that race was not streamed with IRC, but he picked the Lamborghini for Zolder, another circuit where the presence of curbs is very important, and to be able to attack them to the best of your abilities maximizes your lap. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on in this race, because the Lamborghini is definitely a left field choice.
Yep, he's the only driver on the grid in that Lamborghini as well.
A couple of other odd choices being Archon Ghosh in the the A Singh in the Honda, the only one on the grid today.
Yeah, interesting choice from the drivers there. So Gaurav Arora will be getting a nice tow from the car ahead of him, which I believe is Punish.
This is becoming a regular feature.
Try some setting changes, something.
We do apologize to everyone in the chat. This is becoming a regular feature, and it's just as annoying for us as it is for you, trust me on that. We are coming to the final 10 minutes of qualifying, and it has been fairly uneventful so far. All the drivers getting around fairly hassle-free, fuss-free, and it'll be fairly interesting to see how the race gets on with the grid as it currently stands.
We should be getting back into the server any minute now. And in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, you could drop in your predictions for qualifying in the comments below, as we will be going through the chat.
We do apologize. This will not be repeated in future streams. This is not something that's very fun for us as well, having to constantly have to restart the game and whatnot.
Green light, show them what you got.
We are Uzair with a very bold prediction of a car will win. I mean, even I believe a car will win there, Uzair. And the question is which car?
That is true. It is a question of which car at the end of the day.
As we are back.
Not entirely sure why this is happening. We will try to reduce the possibility of this in the future, but do bear with us while we can, and we will do the best that we can to provide you insight into what is going on.
Yes, and while we were out of the server, Masoom again improves, and he is the first car into the 47s, and he seems to be setting the track on fire right now in that Ferrari. They're running on board with Shubham Das here. Into Lesmo 2 he goes. I don't think he's on a lap right now. Could be his out lap.
We are coming down to the last 5 minutes of qualifying here. And currently, as it stands, SD, who did briefly hold provisional pole, is currently in second place. Masoom currently tops our timing sheets.
I think SD is going through parabol to start his lap. Even he can enter the 47s and give Masoom a good challenge.
Coming down to the last 5 minutes of qualifying, all the drivers except Brucker have gotten a lap in. I think Brucker is just racing today with the intention of participating. I don't think he's too fussed about where he starts, although one could say, based on past experience, that maybe starting at the back in Monza is a better idea than starting ahead of everyone else.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, we have seen what Monza Turn 1 can do in ACC, and I think Brucker just wants to stay away from it all.
I think Monza Turn 1 is a particularly troublesome gremlin for a lot of people, because with all the cars bunched up, it's very easy to lock up. It's very easy to overestimate your braking, and it's very easy to make a mistake and punt about 20 drivers ahead of you. So it'll be all about trying to keep it clean, trying to keep it calm, and trying to maximize track position gain without being too obstructive to other people.
Yep. Another thing I noticed is Kapil has left the server and has rejoined in a Mercedes, so his lap time is reset. So I don't think he was feeling very comfortable in that Aston Martin.
Just see a couple of drivers jostling here for track position, as a driver was just coming out of the pits there and has backed off a little bit. As the driver just behind SD here, SD had a fantastic livery there. I am hyping it up a little bit. Oh, as there's a driver parked there on the grass and has gone back to the pits.
Yeah, very dangerous place to park there. Right, very close to the exit.
Drivers will now be looking to set their final flying lap. This will be just enough time for them to get around, maybe 1 minute 2 minutes or so just to get around, and then a minute 40 to do a lap. So just enough time for drivers to get a final qualifying lap in, as Kumar just goes flying through the bollards there at the first chicane. Retofilio just choosing to just maybe shave a little bit of time and allow him to... Oh, and another chicane there cut for him.
I think he's driving on the old Monza track here.
Yeah, I think any minute now he's going to be getting on the oval.
Yep. There'll be a lot of polystyrene as well on the track near turn 2 exit.
I think the most important part of this race is going to come down to the night, because some drivers have mentioned that they are more comfortable driving at night. I was talking to Shubham Das earlier, and he said that he's more comfortable driving at night and he feels that he can carry more pace. But at the same time, there are other drivers who say that driving at night is a little bit more complicated because of the lack of visibility and also the track temperatures. We have very low track temps. Track temps dip below the 20-degree mark, and then it becomes difficult to keep your tires and brakes cool, and that's an even bigger concern here on Monza, because with all the straights and with all the sections that you're just going full flat, it's probably the circuit with the most flat outs or most on throttle time of all the GT3 circuits. Maybe Spa comes close, but it's definitely an interesting conundrum balancing between keeping your tires warm and getting away with it.
Yep, absolutely. As we have drivers starting the final flying lap, it's now or never for them right now. And there are 3 drivers who have not set a lap yet, so it's basically a one-shot quali for them.
We have Gaurav Arora in the Mad Panda Motorsports car, which goes well with his name on Discord, which is Worship the Panda, so I think he's found himself a nice little livery there. Without too much fuss. Currently coming through the Lesmo section, sector 2. Gets a good run through there. It's all about maximizing the exit of Lesmo 1 so you can carry the most speed. Very clean through Lesmo 2 as well. This should be a good lap from him.
Yep, absolutely. Let's see how he takes this Ascari chicane. It's pretty clean and takes a lot of curb. I think he kind of lost it a bit there in the middle of the corner, and I think that compromised his exit a bit. But I don't think he's lost too much time there. We're looking to absolutely send it into Parabolica. As he blasts his way down the finish straight. Let's see. Now he is currently, and he goes into the pits. I think, he lost too much time in Ascari. I think, a little bit of a moment mid corner.
That'll be the end of qualifying. That is the end of qualifying right now. As qualifying stands, Shubham Das is on pole position. Oh no, I'm sorry. Masoom is on pole position. Shubham Das is in second. The pole position time was a 1:47. So, Eccentric, what were your thoughts on qualifying?
Yeah, pretty interesting qualifying. I was expecting a Merc to be on pole, but I think Masoom absolutely smashed out of the park with that 47 lap time. Uh, Pretty unexpected, but yeah, it's good to see as we have, and he'll have two pretty fast Mercs right behind him, giving him company. So overall, really good qualifying. Not sure what happened to Prakhar Vats there, because I was expecting him to be in the top five, but I'm not sure if he did put a lap in there in the McLaren.
As we did briefly mention earlier, I think it's a lot of drivers. I think a lot of drivers, most of them obviously set a qualifying lap, but Prakhar just choosing to start from the back. Maybe it'll actually be a good call at the end of the day. Maybe it'll be a good decision to start sort of fuss free at the back and just see how the race goes.
Yep, absolutely.
We are 2 minutes underway from session start here. We will go to the drivers now on track currently.
I believe we will be having a full formation lap before the rolling start.
Yes, indeed. If it is a full formation lap, drivers will make full use of it to get the tires right up to temperature.
So looking at the qualifying order, I mean, I don't see any big surprises. I believe Kapil is the one surprise you would say. Wouldn't be expecting him to start that low down there in P15. And of course, the second one is Prakhar Vats, who's decided to not put a lap and start from P last.
That's lining up at the rear of the race grid here, the number 70 McLaren. If anything, keep an eye out for him making big gains into turn 1, because it's going to be a crucial point of the race. Turn 1, lap 1, everyone on cold tyres. It's definitely going to be a skirmish in there. Anyways, with 20 seconds left to get underway, also my partner Eccentric in the commentary box here, I want predictions from everyone in the chat as to who you think is going to come out of this race unscathed. But before that, let's talk about who's going to come out of turn 1 unscathed. What do you think, Eccentric?
I mean, I don't want to point out any names, but I hope everyone comes out unscathed. I don't want to see any car pointing in the wrong direction. Lap 1 itself.
That is true. That is true. We want clean
Hopefully
racing from everyone here.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it's a full lap formation lap. I think it's just going to be coming up to the line, we go green. And if that is the case, it's going to be a skirmish. Anirudh Sundar lines up in P4 on qualifying. I think he'll be happy with that qualifying result. His car sporting the logos of his old Formula student team from his time during his undergraduate degree, a touching tribute to a large part of his undergraduate time, and we do go green here. Oh.
Did it crash?
Yes. Oh dearie me. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no.
Can't believe we missed turn 1.
We have missed turn 1, and this is incredibly stupid now. This is getting actually annoying. I am deeply sorry to everyone on the stream. This is becoming a recurring theme, and if it does get very bad, then I think We are sorry for the technical issues. Unfortunately, this is the only way.
Really sorry for the technical difficulties we're having here, ladies and gentlemen. So while we wait, ladies and gentlemen, why don't you drop in the chat, who do you think did not survive turn 1? And who do you think came out as the winner? And we are back, and Masoom has dropped P3, so not sure what happened there, as we have Shivam Das and Sundar going wheel to wheel into turn 1. Shivam Das has the inside line, and I think Anirudh has to concede there. But interesting to see what happened to Masoom there. Got a really bad start, I believe.
All three drivers here going through the long right-hander of turn 3 down to the Della Roggia chicane.
Yep.
It's all about getting the right positioning, getting the car positioned well through here. Don't think SD will have a big... It gets a poor exit out of there, I would say. Anirudh carrying a lot more pace.
Anirudh all over the rear of Shivam Das's. And he gets a very bad exit indeed. And I think Masoom had a cheeky look down the inside of Anirudh, but thinks better of it. I think SD was really struggling out of the Lesmo 1 exit. And Anirudh had a really good run on him as they blast down the straight into Ascari.
Ooh, as there's big contact there between the two drivers and SD is sent spinning.
Yeah, I think Anirudh just misjudged his braking a little bit and slightly tapped SD, so that's really unfortunate for the Mercedes driver there. But it is a long race, and anything could happen. So I think SD should keep on going.
Indeed, indeed.
Yep. And speaking of starts, I think Prakhar Vats was up to P12, but now he's down to P15, so not sure what happened there.
I think he may have lost a few positions, but he gained a lot on the opening lap. We definitely do apologize for the fact that the stream conveniently decided to stop working right at the opening lap. But it is going to be an interesting set. It's going to be an interesting race for Prakhar because he's going to have to not only make up positions but also maintain good pace, consistency, and take care of his tires.
Yep, looks like Gaurav Arora has also made a move on Masoom, and he is up to P2. The break again.
This is quite disappointing now. It's quite a sad state of affairs as it currently stands. While we are waiting here, once again waiting in the lobby as we wait to get back into the race, I do have to apologize. This is not representative of how usually the streams go. This is a one-off incident, and it will hopefully not be repeated in the future. But we will look to get back into the race. Not really sure what the problem is. We've tried everything behind the scenes here, troubleshoot just about everything possible, but it's not really working out for us here. We will try to get back into the server and see what is what.
So ladies and gentlemen, if you're just tuning in right now, we have facing some difficulties, but we will be back in the server. But the race has started. We have right now, I believe, Anirudh in the lead with Gaurav Arora in P2 and Masoom in P3. But our P2 qualifying sitter SD was tapped in the rear by Anirudh and sent spinning down to P10 or P9 as he just made a move on Kapil Bharat here. Hopefully everything goes smoothly now. We have the two Mercedes quite close to the yellow car of SD and blue of Kapil. I believe we should be back into normal racing. We have Anirudh Sundar in P1, Masoom, who has got the position back from Gaurav Arora. Not sure where he made the move, but that's good to see him back to P2. And Tanush Agarwal, I believe, has gained one position and he's running P4 right now. We have Banerjee in P5. Casey seems to have made up, I believe, one place in P6. And we have Mulakala, Kumar, and SD with that unfortunate incident in Ascari running in P9. And we have Kapil Bharat, who has made up, I believe, 5 positions as he started P15. We have Dung Knight in P11, Parvats in P12. He has made up, I believe, 12 positions within the opening 2-3 laps. We have Deepak Raj in P13, A Ghosh in P14, Electrip P15, G Reddy in P16, Singh 17, and I believe Madhav has had in Madhav, and Madhav is running dead last right now. So I believe he has been caught up in some incident that we have missed.
So, good news for those watching the stream. The stream should be pretty stable from here on outwards. We have looked to resolve the issues behind the scenes, so we should get the rest of the race here pretty stably, and hopefully the racing is as it has been until now. Let's go on board Prakhar Vats again, back down from P15 back up to P12.
He is the driver making some moves as he just makes up another move into P11. I don't see Dung Knight behind him, so I think Dung Knight got into some incident between Ascari and the Lesmo. That is a slow car. I'm not sure who that car is. Is it lapped car?
Actually, I think it might be. Let's go ahead and look at the relative, and I think it is. Yes, it is A Singh in the... Oh, actually no. Not entirely sure. It's R Deepak, it says in the timing, but I'm not entirely sure on that.
On this timing, it says R Banerjee. So I think R Banerjee had a moment in Ascari and got a horrible exit, which allowed Prakhar Vats to easily breeze past and into P10.
Yep.
I believe the next car up the road for him is Kapil, who is 5.5 seconds ahead, and he'll be looking to close that gap very quickly.
This will be a long race, so if you are in the chat and you are just joining us, do get comfortable in your seats and stay tuned for what will be a long, drawn-out race, but hopefully it'll be exciting for us in the commentary boxes. We have a lot to talk about.
Yep.
We do have our Banerjee now chasing behind Prakhar Vats
Our Banerjee has some good pace as he's right behind Prakar Vats, who's no slouch indeed. So good pace shown by our Banerjee there, within 5 tenths of Prakar. I think Prakar gets a very, very bad parabolica, and that's allowed our Banerjee to close within 3 tenths. So with the slipstream, I believe he will be getting really close to that bumper. As he pulls out, but thinks better of it, I believe. Is he going to send it down the inside? No, I think he's too far back. Oh, that was really close there from our Banerjee. I thought he was going to go into the back of the McLaren, but gets the car stopped in time, thankfully.
Let's look a little further on. I think there seems to be a battle. I think all the field have... Oh, as our Banerjee goes very deep into the Della Roggia and loses time to Prakar behind him.
Yep, he's completely missed his braking point and just went straight through. And I believe Kapil has had an incident because he's no longer ahead of Prakar Vats. I'm not sure what happened to Kapil. He's down in P15, I believe. Not sure what happened there. Really unfortunate for Kapil, as he had a really good first couple of laps, making his way to P10.
That is interesting because he got a lightning start, it seems like.
Yeah. Now he's all the way down in P15, yeah.
He is in P15, you're right.
Oh,
as
and we have the
a driver
Honda
there.
spinning out on the exit. I believe that is A Singh. He's having quite a bit of trouble in the Honda there in Ascari. And he already finds himself a lap down. So he's looking not a good start at all from A Singh there.
There seems to be a car reversing in your local area there. Just comes down the main straight here. The NSX was an absolute monster in a straight line. So it could be interesting to see how well he recovers in this race. The only driver behind him right now is Sargent in the Lamborghini, and it's pretty unfortunate for Sargent because, as we did mention earlier, the Lamborghini not exactly the optimum selection for this track. It's definitely a left field choice, with the Lamborghini not being the best car over the bumps and curbs.
Yep, we have both the off-field choices car running dead last right now. Mother in the Lambo and Acing in the Honda.
Dung Knight in the number 52 Bangalore Motorsport Racing Club Ferrari, currently up in P11, just off the fringe of the top 10 here, with the 10th place are Banerjee in the number 18 Mercedes, currently 6 seconds ahead of him. You can see the blue flags out for A Singh to get out the way, and he gets out of the way in a very dramatic fashion there.
Yep, I'm not sure what happened there in Lesmo to exit, but I mean, that was his race is going from bad to worse right now.
It is.
Hopefully, it's not sustained any damage.
We do have a little battle here between Mulakala.
So going up the field, we have Casey running in P5, right behind Mulakala. And we have SD as well, who's made his way up to P6, so that's really good pace from SD for his unfortunate incident.
Which sent him down to, I'm not quite sure, I think he went down to P9 or 10, but he's recovered well since then. All three cars following each other in close proximity. So as the race stands, we're currently 15 minutes in, and this is how the field stays as it is. A little bit out off the track there from Mulakala.
the inside. And he's going to get a horrible exit out of Ascari. I think Casey's eyes will be shining right now as he's looking to make a move down the inside of the Ferrari into Parabolica. Very close racing there from SD and from Casey and Mulakala, but I believe Casey has made the move, but Mulakala will be looking to get back in the slipstream and pulls out to try to make a move into turn 1 to get that position back. See if he does manage it, braking hard into turn 1. And I think Casey's, no, he gets the move on Casey, so really good racing from both drivers there. Yep, this is an amazing battle from Mulakala and Casey as they almost go side by side into Curva Grande. I believe SD has a bit of his car alongside. He will be looking to brake later, but I think he thinks better of it going into De La Roja. Some great battles already heating up, and we're not even half an hour in. Mulakala goes a bit wide again. So he's not having the best of times in the Lesmos. But I believe he's putting the car in the proper places everywhere else. The best of time in Lesmo.
Seems to be gaining a little bit of time there on KC actually in retrospect. You do see Marsoom a little further up the field, getting past some of the back markers, and briefly getting passed again by one of the back markers. So there seems to be a little bit of scuffling going up ahead of them.
In case he's got a we went to a very bad Parabolica and he's quite a bit behind Mulakala. So we should see how this battle heats up in the future. But while this battle is going on, SG is just blown away. I think he's about 3 seconds already ahead. So this battle does not really help each other in terms of fighting for P4 and has just helped SD to pull away. SKC completely misses the first left corner of the Roger and has to cut the right chicane. That would have cost him even more time indeed. As we see again, Mulakala is going right through the Lesmos into the gravel. So I think this is the corner where Casey has to maximize and to close the gap to Mulakala.
We can go on board with the drivers currently in P15 and 16 right now. They seem to be scuffling a little bit for position. A Kumar and H Kumar a little bit further up the field. As we also see a couple of drivers falling back a bit. Ferrari and the Mercedes of A Kumar and H Kumar separated by just 1.8 seconds. There was a great bit of scuffle between them earlier in the lap, but they seem to have made the position stick, and A Kumar seems to have held P15. Aurora also dropping very far back out of Aurora, got to P18 after he had a good start at the beginning actually. I'm not quite sure what happened to him, but he now finds himself a lap behind everyone else, or 2 laps behind everyone else I should say. Dreadful start there from Aurora, not entirely sure what happened to him there.
Yep, a few laps ago he was fighting with Masoom for the lead, or P2 at least. So really unfortunate for Gaurav there.
Battle is heating up here between Casey and Brucker.
Yep, all that battle with Mulakala has just allowed Prakarwats to just slowly close into the rear of AC. Prakarwats starting dead last already in P7, so he is a factor in this race to at least get podium, if not to win, and keep this pace up.
I think in position to not put in a qualifying lap at all as he gets very close up here in personal with KC. Almost pulling side by side outside, going into Ascari. Just manages to make it. KC just manages to keep his bumper ahead. This will be an important battle.
Yeah, good space left by both cars there. But I mean, that was really audacious to try to go around the outside of a car in Ascari. But he's got a great run down to Parabolica here.
Parabolica. We get the move done. It is the longer path around Parabolica, but it's all about bravery and keeping it stuck in there. And he's going side by side, and he does emerge side by side.
That was an amazing move from Prakarwats all the way around the outside of Parabolica. And into P6 he goes.
Not many drivers would choose to get the move done around Parabolica. Ideally, they would like to slip in behind and get the move done on the pit straight, but obviously Prakarwats has other ideas there and just look to make the position his as soon as humanly possible. And he does pull away here from KC.
He's already showing his superiority in pace as Mulakala is 2 seconds up front and he'll be looking to close that gap as soon as possible. KC misses the chicane again as he did in the previous lap. So KC really struggling in Del Oroggio.
I think it's just a case of getting the Bentley slowed down, but also there's the factor of tires. You know, when you are on the attack and you're trying to defend your position and then attack the position immediately afterwards, when the driver who's just overtaken you is not completely comfortable with that position, the tire temps do tend to increase. And so you start struggling a little bit with grip, and then you have to back off a little bit. So it's just a case of KC now will have to take some time and evaluate before he does goes for the next move. Ooh, as a driver just puts two wheels into the gravel, I think it might have been Mulakala in the 333 Ferrari in P5 now. Did have a good start there. I think he came up from outside the top 10, now trying to find himself P5.
Yep, and closing down KC as well is Arbanergy not far behind in the Mercedes. So KC will be looking to get a move on here, try to keep up with Prakar, not lose too much ground.
I think Prakar will now have his eyes firmly set on the podium after making the comeback drive this well. I think it's definitely going to be weighing on his mind now that the chance of a podium is definitely available for him.
Yep, absolutely. I think Anish is in P3 and he's not too far up the road, so he will be looking to get that podium positions as soon as possible.
Right on Mulakala's bumper now. If we can go on board Mulakala's view, you can see just how quickly Prakar has managed to not only dispatch KC, but he's managed to catch up and make up all that time on KC, on Mulakala, I apologize. Just how much pace he's carrying, it becomes almost impossible to defend against, because you have a driver coming up on you so fast. It almost forces you to go faster, and that's what forces drivers into mistakes. And there's also the question of conserving tyres and saving fuel as well, because in endurance race you only carry a fixed set for your first stint. So it's all about how these guys manage to make their pit strategies work out. But at this point, Prakar is on maximum attack, which means that he's going to look to be a little bit more conservative in the second and third stints.
Yeah, Prakar is absolutely right on the rear of Mulakala as he had an amazing Parabolica, and he pulls out, try to go around the outside of Mulakala.
He is the lone McLaren in this server, and he is the lone Ranger making a lonely scalpel of a move up the field. He has done fantastically well as Molecular responds and spins Brucker
Oh,
around.
no.
There is contact and they go face to face briefly. KC, big contact there. 3-4 cars piled up. Molecular gets away. KC gets away just about. But Brucker in that one corner has lost 3 positions to 3 drivers. That was a little bit interesting from Molecular there. He just chose to stick it into the inside after briefly losing the position, and it seemed to bite him back because just made a little bit of contact with Brucker, spun Brucker around, and that had sort of a Constantino effect on subsequent cars coming through the corner.
Yeah, this is where drivers need to show a bit more patience because Molecular got a bit scuffled at the fact that the McLaren passed him and he tried to gain back the position immediately with an audacious dive bomb into turn 1 and he just taps him ever so slightly, which sends him spinning around. And as the 2 other cars came into turn 1, they had nowhere to go. It was really unfortunate for all 4 cars.
This leaves Brucker with all the work to do all over again right from the beginning. He has to now regain his position on KC and also on Molecular, but also now he has the threat of our Banerjee again from behind him, and one could say he may have damaged his tyres going into that little spin. Could have left a couple of flat spots here and there, but it's definitely a damaging blow to Vud's. Maybe not in the grand scheme of things, but if we look at it over the next 10-15 minutes, this will be crucial to whether or not we can catch up to those front runners.
Yep. I hope none of the drivers got any damage in that whole scuffle. There's still 2 hours to go. Anything can happen. Brucker should keep his head down and make one move go past each driver, one move at a time. Make up all that lost time. It is already right on the bumper of KC here. Is he really going to try to make a move into Delaroja? I believe he does. He's got a great run off turn 1 and he's already got past KC. So I think the driver ahead is Molecular, who is around 6 seconds ahead.
Brucker wasting no time getting back the positions that he lost with that incident with Molecular going into Retafilio on the previous lap.
Hopefully this time we can get the move done cleanly without pointing in the wrong direction. It's just past the half-an-hour mark. We have Anirudh Sundar, who is in the lead Ferrari, and I believe Masoom is P2 and Tanish in P3 in his Mercedes.
After having that brief scuffle at the beginning with Shubham Das, who was leading the race, I think, Anirudh has kept it fairly consistent since then, and it's just a case of, for him now, it's just putting in good laps. But he does have Masoom almost achingly close to him, just 2 seconds separate the 2 drivers, and it's going to be a case of if Masoom will look to get the position now, he'll just look to stay behind Sundar and just mirror his driving, try to do it that way.
Yep, Masoom is keeping Anirudh Sundar humble here. Both of them almost equal lap times.
The 2 Ferrari drivers, not teammates definitely, but they will look to go punch for punch here, being as consistent as possible, not making too many mistakes. And I think, if anything, this battle will be decided probably at turn 1 or ideally in sector 2 of next lap, if they can manage to close the gap to them.
I think Masoom has closed the gap down from 1.5 seconds to 1 second. So I believe Masoom has a tiny bit more pace right now. But let's see if he decides to close in and make the move, or whether to just conserve tires, conserve fuel, and think about the move later.
currently Masoom is going 3/10 faster as they come across the line there. A 1:49.0 from Masoom, 1:49.3 from Anirudh, so he is definitely the faster driver between the two. But it's just a case of who can capitalize on the other's mistake, if any.
Going past the finish line, I believe that was R. Banerjee who pitted. So that's, I think, his first pit stop there. And we have the Lambo getting out the way of the lead cars.
Joining us on the stream, Anirudh Sundar currently leads the pack going into the final 2 hours of the race. I do say final 2 hours. We're only 30 minutes underway here. 2.5 hours of Monza. Anirudh currently controlling the pace at the front of the grid, but he does have to contend with Masoom just behind him within 2 seconds and looking to be on the attack. Masoom, the faster driver at this particular stage, 3 to 4/10 faster than Anirudh coming through the previous lap, and he does seem to want to get the position over Anirudh so that he can settle himself down for the long stint. But first stint, some drivers just diving into the pits. The compulsory number of pit stops is 2 in this race, so it's just a case of get pit stops done and where, of course, drivers will look to minimize the amount of time in the pit stops. But what do you think, Eccentric?
Yep, I think now is about the time where the drivers start coming into the pits to get their first mandatory pit stop done. And let's hopefully, after all the pit stops, all the first pit stops are done, we should see how the grid lines up. As I think Dung Knight is really close to Casey. As we have, was that Anirudh? Yeah, Anirudh dives into the pits from the lead of the race. So Masoom takes over the lead of the race, and he'll be looking to push as much as he can to try to get the overcut. As I believe Dung Knight is close to Casey in that fight for P7. Go on board. Yep, Dung Knight is right on the rear of that Bentley.
I think with endurance driving, it's about playing the long game. And from what we've seen, some drivers are choosing to do that, but some drivers are trying to just carve themselves a little bit of open air. And if that means attacking other drivers, if that means gaining a position, then, well, they achieve a dual purpose. Then they not only open up space, but they also look to get a position.
Absolutely. I think Dung Knight is getting a really good run on Casey as he pulls out to make a move down into turn 1. And I believe it's a really pretty comfortable move there. I hope we don't get a repeat of what happened last time. And I think Casey is smart enough to not go for a dive bomb there.
Casey is smart enough to just hold back a little bit. But of course, I think that will be the common theme with the drivers here. I think there's not going to be a lot of dive bombs up the entire thing. With considering that this is a long race, I think drivers know that factors are just go beyond overtaking an outright pace. I think it's all about how your position fares in the grand scheme of things. So it's going to be interesting to see. Casey definitely on the attack here, wants to get the position back, but he won't be rushed. He's not going to be forced into making any mistakes that he doesn't want to. It's just a case of seizing the opportunity where it exists. So Anirudh Sundar seems to have made his pit stop or made a mistake because he has dropped down to P8. So I think that might be a fact. I think he might have taken his pit stop.
Yeah, he did. He made his pit stop. He pitted from the lead. And he's running P8 now.
That is the first pit stop for him done. Drivers, well, the fuel split is roughly for 3 hours, 100, 192. or 92, 92, a little bit less if you want to conserve a little bit on fuel. So now it's got a full tank. The car's a little bit heavier, handling characteristics will change a little bit, but it'll be a case of now trying to just get back into the rhythm and rekindle positions once again, because the drivers ahead of him will start pitting. So I think coming out in clean air with no pressure from behind, because Marsoum was attacking him, I think that gives him a chance to reset and just take a new perspective on things.
Yep, absolutely. I believe is our Banerjee a lap down? Oh no, it is a battle between Electric and H. Kumar for P13. And I believe Electric just lost that position coming out of Ascari. It'll be looking close back up to the rear of the Mercedes to try and get that position back.
Has settled down a bit here. All the drivers have managed to put a little bit of gap between themselves. Electric, who is a pretty consistent race so far, pretty event-free for him, hassle-free. Currently sits in P14 with the lap car Banerjee behind him.
I believe there's a battle going on for P4 right now, if you can go on board. Karvats. He has closed right up to Mulakala after that unfortunate turn 1 incident. He will be looking to get past Mulakala cleanly this time.
So Anirudh pitting a little earlier than the other front runners means that SD is back into the podium places, and Danish Agarwal as well up into P2. And I think about 7 seconds separate those two drivers, with Marsoum being considerably far ahead, and 20 seconds ahead of those two drivers ahead of him. So definitely an interesting state of things for the final two podium positions, but if Marsoum can get the overcut, or Marsoum can keep his position well, as Prakhar gets very close to Mulakala here, he will be seeing red in his eyes as he sees a former, I won't say a former nemesis, but a former thorn in his side, if you will, after that initial attempt to overtake Mulakala on the lane. We will see if he can get the move done here through turn 1, probably not turn 1, we'll look to get it done through turn 4.
I think the Ferrari goes just a little bit deep into turn 1, which has compromised his exit a bit of turn 2, as we can see that he actually goes onto the grass, which is not where you want to be, as he loses a bit of straight line speed, and Karvats wastes no time and easily breezes past the green Ferrari. And it's a good thing we didn't see some dive bombs into turn 4 this time.
I think Das, after getting a questionable start to the race, has settled down a bit here. He did have that brief incident with Anirudh at the beginning, where Anirudh spun him around coming into, I believe, Ascari, and he's recovered well considering the circumstances.
Yep, he is lapping around half a second quicker than Tanish, so he is catching Tanish rapidly here.
Indeed.
As I believe KC gets a stop go, 30-second stop go penalty. I think that was for speeding in the pit lane, I believe. So that's really unfortunate for the Bentley driver who's running down in P14 after making his first pit stop. Here we have Anirudh Sundar in P7, already closed down. Around there was, I think it was a 6-second gap to Dung Knight, and it's already down to 1.4. So Anirudh really showing his pace, trying to get that undercut on Masoom.
Not entirely sure if the number 19 Ferrari is on newer tyres, but he seems to be catching at such a rapid pace that it seems to me like he may be on new tyres, but he's catching up here, pulls out of the slipstream and gets the overtake done very, very easily down into Lesmo 2.
If he got such an insane exit out of Lesmo, I don't think even he was expecting that. So he just made the move into Lesmo 2.
I mean,
And
he was catching Dung Knight like he was standing still through Sector 1 and the beginning of Sector 2, but I don't think even he would have predicted that he would get such a brilliant exit out of Lesmo 1.
yep, absolutely. And Dung Knight really struggling through Ascari. So I believe Anirudh has changed tires, if I'm not wrong, because he's just flying right now.
I mean, the relative pace kind of gives it away, even though he's on, a heavier fuel load right now.
I believe Casey has dived into the pits again to serve that stop go. So I mean, he would have wished his race had gone a bit better. Not a great race from Casey there. Pitted, I believe, 2 laps before, and then got that stop go penalty and has pitted again to serve it.
Yep, indeed. I think he's now dropped into the second half of the field. Yep, down to P14. But Masoom currently running in open air. Currently 45 minutes into this race, and he has inherited the race lead if you are just joining us. He has been running in the lead for about 2 or 3 laps now after Anirudh pitted for his first pit stop of the session so far. Masoom, who qualified on pole, I think he found himself down after lap 1. We did have a brief technical difficulty in the stream at that point, so we did not catch the start of the race. But when we did see, he was behind SD and Anirudh, and then SD had to relinquish the lead of the race when him and Anirudh got involved in a skirmish. But right now, Masoom sailing in clear air.
It will be interesting to see where he comes out relative to Anirudh after his first pit stop. Right now, in clean air, he'll be looking to put some good lap times on the board before he makes that first pit stop. Has Malakla got some, I believe that's damage and a broken steering, I believe, from Malakla. So I think he's got into a bit of an incident. Not sure where. So I think that's quite a lot of damage on his car. So I believe he's lost it somewhere in the previous lap.
He may have had some damage from the contact that he had with drivers a little earlier in the race as well.
It's a shame because he was really running in a good position. I believe P7, P6. Yeah, now we're dropped quite far way behind.
Field once again spreading out a little bit here, although I think M. Sargent is about to be overtaken here. Sargent not in last place, I don't think, or unless we have only 16 drivers on the grid. Sargent in the Lamborghini, kind of being blue flagged here so that SD can pass him. and Masoom and SD are separated by just over 30 seconds. So quite a gap here between P1 and 2. But I think that's mostly because SD had an incident earlier on in the beginning in Ascari. So maybe if towards the end of his stint he just decides to go that little bit longer than Masoom and stays out, then he will inherit the race lead, but it'll be unknown to see just how long he'll keep it.
Oh, and I believe both Madhav and Casey completely cut the second part of Della Rogia. So yeah, both of them completely missed the breaking point and both followed each other, cutting the track onto the grass, losing a bit of time.
I don't think they'll be penalised for that though, because as I just mentioned there, they lost time rather than gaining any time. So the curbs, no, not the curbs, the sort of the bollards, if you will, Della Rogia, they really unsettle the car if you go over them at speed. So drivers definitely would have lost some time there.
I believe we seem to have lost SD's livery because he was in the yellow car and now it's black.
I think that was a result of the of a few technical difficulties that we were having earlier, and in a bid to resolve it, we have lost some of the custom livery. So I think it's only SD's livery that we've lost. So I do apologise to SD and also to everyone in the stream watching. Anirudh Sundar, wow, has managed to make it up to P3 after his pit stop now.
Sergeant, really close there.
Yeah, Sergeant Vats getting a little too close for comfort, if you will. Brucker now fighting for P9 alongside H. Kumar. I believe Brucker may have stopped for his first pit stop. I'm not entirely sure if that is the case or if he was involved in some skirmish, because he was up briefly into P5 after Anirudh pit, and he did make up a position on Casey, and also Casey is pit. So I think Brucker may also have taken his first pit stop.
Yep, I believe that is the case. As we have a battle going on between Kapil and A. Ghosh for P6, if we can go on board there.
Separated by just 0.6 of a second here. This will be an important chance for Kapil to make up another position. Two Mercedes cars fighting with each other here. Also very similar coloured Mercedes cars, so you could mistake those teammates.
Yep, very similar indeed. Ooh, as I'm not sure what happened there, as there is a little bit of contact, and I think we'll just send it down the inside of A. Ghosh. And he was lucky that A. Ghosh obliged with him and gave him the space. Otherwise, that could have ended really badly for both cars.
Kapil leaving nothing on the table, but also giving A. Ghosh space on the table while sending it. But good respect there, good mutual respect between the drivers, keeping it clean. Kapil goes a little wide at parabolic and loses a little bit of time there. But in the end, I don't think it'll matter, because I think both drivers will be very, very happy that they managed to get out of that little incident unscathed, unaffected.
Yep, absolutely. Moving up the field, I think there is a battle between Deepak Raj and Tanish, who is, I believe, just less than a second off each other. I think Tanish just... I'm not sure how Deepak Raj has ended up in P5. I
think it's just a case of he hasn't pitted yet and drivers ahead of him have and dropped back in position a bit. I think he's yet to make his first pit stop.
Yep, absolutely.
Marston is currently out in open air, uncontested right now in the lead of the race. His nearest competition is SD, who's currently 32 seconds behind in the standings. But I think at the way that which Anirudh is making places up the grid, I think it is going to be Anirudh who is going to be the closest rival again to Masoom. And Anirudh, having already completed his pit stop, his first mandatory pit stop, as Masoom dives into the pits here as well, just ahead or just behind Ard Deepak in the Lexus, which is an absolutely brilliant car for this track, might I add. Raw outright pace. it's a fantastic car on this track. There is Deepak Raj, Blue Flag Racing, and he hits, briefly gets touched there by Masoom as he comes into his own pit box. This will be interesting. Will Masoom be in the pits long enough for SD to inherit the race lead? I think he will be, but the more important question is, will Anirudh inherit the race lead?
Yep. It's really, really interesting to see who comes out in the lead.
SD comes past the pit wall here and inherits the race lead, if only briefly. But the important thing is, where will Masoom come out in front of Anirudh, or will he be behind him? Rain of cars, blue flag cars, backmarker cars, and of course the front runners here.
You can go on board Masoom to see where he has come out, and I believe he is
Only
just
10 seconds separating Sundar. Sundar, I think, is coming around the fire. He's coming around Parabolica now. I think he'll come out 4 or 5 seconds behind Masoom, but you've got to keep in mind Masoom will be on colder tyres for the first couple of corners, not the first lap or so.
Masoom's actually come out quite a bit ahead, around 7 seconds. So that's a huge overcut that Masoom has gotten here.
Fantastic work there from Masoom. He's worked the overcut to perfection. Anirudh will be a little pretty hard done by. The undercut has cost him 6 seconds in between the two drivers.
Yep, I think Anirudh got caught up in the traffic of cars and lost out by quite a bit. Around 7 seconds is the gap right now. Hopefully he can claw that gap down to around 1 second or 2 seconds.
We could just briefly switch to the interval timing sheet here. We'll get a good idea of how the field in its entirety looks. Okay, we're having a look at the total timing sheets here. Shubham Das going to be leading the race. 53 minutes and now just under the 1 hour mark. Musa Masoom in second place, as we just saw, but he is currently being caught up by Anirudh Sundar as they come across the line here. Anirudh about 7.2 seconds behind Masoom, and Kapil Bharat has managed to find himself all the way up into P4. Brilliant racing there from Kapil after choosing to change his car during qualifying.
Yep, finds himself just one position off the podium places after he started qualifying on the Aston Martin. Don't think he liked the balance or something was wrong with it. Comes back in the AMG, and I think he just had one lap, and that was good enough only for P15. So yeah, really good comeback drive from Kapil there. I believe Tanish has also pitted and is now in P9 behind A Ghosh. I believe almost every driver has made that one mandatory pit stop, I believe. It'll be interesting to see how these drivers now fare. It'll be interesting to see who's chosen newer tires and who hasn't. It'll be pretty evident as we have Tanish Agarwal going almost into the old Monza track, if you will, maximizing all the track he could get. But I think he has lost out a bit to Dam Knight.
By doing that, he has sort of compromised his position going into turn one. He will defend the outside. The United Tanish Agarwal. Okay, they got fairly contact free through there. Good racing between the two drivers. Unite right on Tanish's rear bumper here.
Absolutely. Tanish not looking happy with his car here. Hopefully he can get everything in place and put some good laps in. As he goes wide again, and he's got a horrible exit out of Delaroche, and that's allowed Dung Knight to go up inside into Lesmo 1. But Tanish holding it around the outside still, and he just gets squeezed wide and has had to back off. But this scrap is not done yet, as we have Tanish going wide again. And down into Ascari they go.
Danish using a fantastic livery here, the Vodafone livery. Mercedes AMG team, Vodafone is the team name as well. It's a fairly good exit coming out of Ascari. Don't think he really makes that much time on D9 though. It'll be all decided here in Parabolica. Whoever gets the best run through here will get the best run out onto the main straight. And Danish gets a little sideways, then a little sideways again.
Yep, just like last lap, it's struggling through Parabolica. Horrible entry and compromised his exit as well.
I
He's lost quite a bit of time.
carries too much pace into Parabolica and realizes that he's understeering, tries to correct it, and then oversteers in the process.
Tanish has been known to lose a bit of cool during battles, so I hope he keeps his mind in the race and put some good laps to catch back up to Dung Knight and does not do anything rash.
Being in endurance, I think Danish will be pretty cool in his head. I think it's a long game. It's a long, strategic mind game, endurance racing, and you never really know when your opponent's going to make a move, and I think that's what makes it exciting, contrary to what it may initially look like. But we do see further up the field that Prakur Vats has made it up into P5 and is only 7 seconds off Kapil Bharat, I should say, who's just down the road from him. Kapil is probably going through Parabolica right now. But depending upon how well Kapil can maintain his pace, he will have to contend with Prakur in a couple of laps' time. I'd say 2 or 3 laps, depending upon how the relative lap times. I will have a look here as they come across the line. Kapil is doing 151s as SD comes into the pits. Formerly a yellow car in this race, he is now the carbon look going on, which is still a pretty good look if you ask me. SD comes into the pits. I think he will lose position to Masoom and Sundar, who are just coming around Parabolica now. He will lose P1 and P2, but considering the circumstances, he has done brilliantly well to recover after that initial incident in Ascari in the early stages of the race.
Yep.
Masoom retakes race lead. Will SD may come out ahead of Sundar? I don't think he will. Yep, Sundar takes P2 in the number 19 car. Adorned with Raftar racing logos everywhere. Electric comes past back marker car. But is there a chance of maybe Kapil and Prakur making it past SD? I don't think they will, because they are 40 seconds behind SD here. And SD will come out in P3, about 30 seconds behind the drivers ahead.
Yep, so the top 5 really spread apart here. 30 seconds between P2 and P3. The same between P3 and P4.
Field once again has spread apart a little bit. If we have a look at the relative timing tree, we will see that a lot of the drivers have just put a little bit of distance between themselves. We will get an updated list of timings as all the drivers come across the finishing line here. And Prakur Vats is currently about 5 seconds off Kapil, made up about 2 seconds in 2 laps. I think he's going a little bit faster. Seems to be having the pace, being on fresher tyres. I think Kapil has not pitted yet, although I might be wrong on that.
Kapil, I don't believe he has pitted yet.
Okay, so Kapil with, I mean, it should be reaching maximum stint point around now. I mean, maximum stint time allowed is 65 minutes, so I think Kapil should be coming in anytime soon to make his first pit stop out of the mandatory 2 available to him, which means Baraka will inherit P4 in this race.
Yep, really good comeback there from him, who once again started dead last. And now find himself in P4. P5, apologies. The scrap between Tanish and Damned continues. The gap less than 0.6 of a second. Hopefully Tanish can get past Damned.
Apologies, I've just been told by race control that there is no specified stint time. So I think there's just 2 mandatory pit stops the drivers have to make. I think it's general rule of thumb that you split the race time evenly into two pit stops and see roughly where you have to make your stop. But of course, now that I've been briefed by race control that there is no minimum stint time, or maximum stint time I should say, that it is possible to go for as far as Kapil realistically wants to go. As we just go on board Danish here, he will finally look to get the move done, and he does it fantastically well around Parabolica. D9 runs a little bit wide and is also now split by the front running car of Marsoom. Marsoom will get a little bit of a slipstream here from Danish. More importantly, D9 will get a little bit of slipstream here from Marsoom.
So I think Tanish will be looking to let as he does, and that actually allowed Dung Knight to close up to Tanish.
We are now entering the final stages of the daytime part of this race. We've got maybe another 20-30 minutes of sunlight before the track temps start to cool down, which is when there'll be a couple more, or there'll be a more emphasis on maintaining tyre temps from all the drivers. And I was mentioning a little earlier that some of the drivers were trying to find a balance between how to keep their tyres warm, because the brake duct settings on these cars are such that you know, just switching between consecutive modes can result in either tyres not being cool enough or tyres not being warm enough and tyres being too hot. So it's all about finding fine balance. That is going to be more and more prevalent as the track conditions are changing. We've had peak temps of about 33 degrees when the race first started, and now the track temps have dropped to 25, and we will start to see sub 20 track times as the sun goes down, due to start seeing the night part of this race coming. As Danish gets very twitchy there through Ascari, and that allows D9 to get a good run on him.
But Tanish should be looking to get a good exit out of Parabolica and not make the same mistake as he did in his previous laps.
Danish better braking there from him that time. Still runs a little bit wide and a little bit sideways. That'll allow D9 to make up time on him again, and D9 will slip out of the slipstream here and look to get the position done. But I think Danish has managed to recover well. Maybe the speed of the Mercedes has papered over the cracks of his mistake a little bit there. I think it was just he carried too much pace and ran a little too wide and got caught up on the curbs. But D9 takes the position, P7 again from Danish. And Danish also runs a little wide on the exit of Ratafilio chicane there. So it's back to square one for Danish with regards to taking that position.
Yep, he's really struggling in that one corner, which is costing him a lot of time and positions. He just lost another one there. So I think he's just going in too hot and then just losing the rear on exit or mid corner, allowing him to get a horrible exit.
Yes. If you are just joining us now, we are just past the 1 hour mark in the 2.5 hours of Monza, hosted by IRC on ACC. We are currently on board Dung Knight in the number 52 Ferrari, currently defending his position from Danish, having already made 2 attempts to overtake in the past couple of laps. Danish is now having his 3rd attempt overall, but he seems to be struggling in Sector 3 with his Mercedes, and that is allowing Dung Knight to repeatedly gain the position back going into Sector 1 because Danish loses so much time. And again here, Danish making the overtake coming out of Ascari side by side, a drag race down to Parabolica.
Yep, let's see how good an exit Tanish gets this time, as he does get the move already going into Parabolica, but as again he carries too much speed into the corner and just understeers wide, which has allowed Dung Knight to get back that position.
I think the Mercedes does benefit from a little bit more straight line speed, so maybe he can, if he can, get a little bit of a slipstream going into turn 1, but I don't think he does, just choosing to stay in the clean air a bit.
He does brake a tad bit late, which has allowed him to close that gap ever so slightly. And again, he goes a bit wide in turn 2, which has compromised his exit once again.
He has been struggling on the exit of turn 1 and also through Parabolica. I think those are 2 places where Danish is repeatedly losing time to Dung Knight, but he seems to be catching him little by little in the middle sector. He seems to be much stronger in that sector than D Knight. So it'll be interesting to see how this battle pans out.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see, who was that pointing the wrong way?
That was A Ghosh.
Oh.
Archon Ghosh in the warp speed, Quantum in the warp speed blue Mercedes.
I think he got it all wrong on the curb of Parabolica and was just sent spinning.
Yep. I felt like Quantum was using a different livery. He was using a pink livery that looked like a snake skin, but currently he's in a blue. Oh yeah, I think he said that he had options as to which livery he could use.
Yep.
A lot of very interesting, cool, and eccentric liveries. Not to make a reference to your name there, commentator, but it's a lot of interesting livery choices there. As Danis runs wide again through Parabolica, but I think no, he is still behind D Knight. Actually lost time to D Knight. D Knight going well, nearly 1.3 seconds faster on that lap. Danish may have made a mistake somewhere during that lap because he has found himself considerably far behind D Knight again and having to make the move work again. Has both drivers there behind him, Anirudh as well, cutting through the Retifilio, hopping over the bumps as carries just a little bit too much speed.
Yeah, and it just mirrors what Tanish does. And Tanish got a drive-through as a result of that. So he has done that too many times, I believe. Now his race has gone. I mean, it was going good, but his gone worse right now after that drive-through.
That will be extremely unfortunate for Tanish because he has been right on the back of D9 all this time, and I think in an effort to sort of keep up with D9, he's pushed it past the limits of tire grip, but also the limits of what was capable of the car and of himself. So he will have to serve the drive-through now within the next couple of laps, and that will derail his efforts for the P7, but also top 10.
Yep, he has. Oh, and I think it was that on the grass. I believe that was G Reddy there, completely cutting Ascari.
Couple Bharat has dropped back to P5 now. I think Bracker may have taken P4 from him. We will have a look in a second. If we can go to the relative timing, we'll have a look at the top order as it is. And yep, Bracker has taken P4 from Couple. I don't know if Couple may have pitted, but I think no, he's only 7 seconds behind Bracker. So I think Bracker may have just taken the position there.
Yep, and Masyam has been slowly increasing the gap to Anirudh. So it was around 8 seconds when he came out of the pits. Now it's up to 11 seconds. So Masoom showing some really good pace here. On his, I believe he has changed tires, so he would be having fresher tires at this point.
Brilliant driving there from Marsoon.
I believe they're coming up to P5 to get lapped. So, I mean, the field is really spread out. Masoom showing some great pace.
G ready up in P6 in the RDYS Bentley number 172. We are seeing the sort of the final stages of sunlight here as the sunset cuts through the foliage, and we do start seeing track temp dropping a bit more, 24 degrees, 25 degrees a little earlier in the race, with peaks of 33. Track conditions are still optimum, but the dropping track temperatures will have an effect. SD has also made up a little time on idle. It was 33 or 32 seconds, but SD has now cut that to 29. I mean, it's a small dent, but this is also a long race. So if he can keep slowly gaining a little bit of time, I think there is going to be a chance for him to maybe get another position, but I think he'll be happy exactly where he is.
Yep, all it takes is one tiny mistake from the top two drivers, and that's SD back into the fight for the lead. As it seems to, we have lost Electrip's livery as well, as it was in a brightly colored red Ferrari. Now it's black Ferrari. So Electrip also.
Electric. DJ Electric is in the Ferrari, as you mentioned. We do have some of the liveries, but it seems we've lost some of them. So, deepest apologies to drivers and in the chat. Also, do let us know if you think that drivers find it annoying or nice to drive at night and to drive in sunset conditions, because we will be able to provide you a little insight into that based on practice that he's going through yesterday. We'll tell you whether or not these drivers enjoy driving in these very eye candy sunset conditions. Brucker has driven a fantastic comeback drive though, starting dead last, having not even put in a qualifying lap. Just rode the wave of destruction around him, and has managed to capitalize that to the fullest, because it's currently P4. Maybe a podium is on the books, but I would say, considering just how far down the road they are, I think it might be a little beyond contemplation at this point. 42 seconds gap between Brucker and Sugardas as it currently stands. Maybe a little too much to ask for.
We have Gaurav Arora running in P15. They're not in it's been a pretty bad race for him, but at the start he was running in the podium places, and we kind of missed what happened to him. But hopefully he can claw his way back into points position, into the top 10, hopefully. I think Gaurav just goes a little bit wide in Ascari as he tries to unlap himself, if you will, onto D ready.
Up now between Masoom and Anirudh Sundar is now about 20 seconds or 17 seconds. Anirudh definitely losing some time there somewhere, because he was catching up to Masoom within 7 or 8 seconds of him, but now he has dropped back considerably. He's dropped back to about 17 seconds behind, so maybe a mistake there somewhere, or trouble negotiating the back markers.
Dora Aurora pits from P15 in the Mercedes. Interesting to see where he comes out.
And Panda Motorsports Mercedes-Benz currently sitting in the pits. We will have a look at where he comes out. I don't think he's really fighting anyone except M. Sargent in the Lamborghini, who I think is the only driver behind the Mad Panda Motorsports car. Casey, after his pit stop, finds himself outside the top 10 after fighting D Knight for P7. D Knight is now further down the road, but obviously D Knight has not taken a pit stop yet, so it will be interesting to see where that puts him relative to D Knight. Has the undercut worked out well for KC? Only time will tell.
Yeah, and Punish drops all the way back to P10 after serving the drive-through, so at least he's still in the top 10. Hopefully he can claw his way back up.
That's right. Mulakala, after getting involved with Brucker, he was in P8, and I think he still is in P8. Fairly unchanged for him so far in this race, as we do have a yellow flag, which means someone somewhere is involved in an incident. We'll just have a look through the
I think it
field
was
here.
Tanish, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, it is Tanish.
It is Tanish. Tanish has spun and lost it on the exit of Ascari there. Still there. I wouldn't say it's quite on the racing line, but it will get very close between drivers coming past him there. He has just beached it in the sand there on the exit of Ascari. Drivers going past. Tanish losing positions, and I think he may have disconnected from the server. We're not entirely sure, but Tanish right now is totally stationary. We'll have a little look further up the grid. Kapil Bharat comes in for a pit stop in the number 7 Black Falcon car. This will probably put him behind Deepak Raj, who's in P7. But we are on board with Anirudh here. Who is currently 16 seconds behind Masoom, losing even more time. I think his tire advantage has come to an end now. I think now is probably at a disadvantage to Masoom ahead of him. Masoom having overcome that period of time where he had cold tires and had a heavy car, having been fully loaded up with fuel.
Yep, and I believe Tanish has got his car back up and running. So that's good to see. I'm not sure if he disconnected or he's still in the race, not sure. Hopefully he's still in the race and maybe looking to complete the remaining 1 hour 10 minutes.
If you are just joining us, we have just over an hour of racing left in the 2.5 hours of Monza, hosted by IRC on Asseto Corsa Competizione. Started off with 20 drivers. We have lost 4 of them thus far. 16 drivers currently on the grid as it stands, as we see a pirouetting Lexus of Deepak Raj, who drops out of P7 after Mulakala overtakes him. Or I think he may have just been involved in an incident on his own. I don't think he was involved any other driver. So far, performance of the race so far in terms of driving has been Brucker, having made his way up from P20 to P4 in the span of an hour and 20 minutes. He still has a lot of driving ahead of him to do. The race is definitely not over for drivers ahead of him, behind him, or for himself, but he has definitely been a consistent driver so far, and he's managed to make use of the opportunities presented to him. In terms of how the top 3 look, Anirudh Sundar is currently about 15 seconds behind Musa Masoom, who's currently our race leader, having started on pole. He briefly dropped back in the opening stages of the race to SD Shubham Das, who's currently in P3, but an incident between Shubham Das and Sundar in P2 resulted in Das dropping back, and having made a recovery drive is now in P3 in the all-black number 21 Mercedes. KC, after having sort of a rocky middle of the race so far, He has pitted and now finds himself in P12, giving him a nice clean slate to attack the drivers ahead of him, although he has picked up a drive-through penalty, which will not be helpful to his cause at all.
Yeah, very unfortunate for Mr. Casey there. That drive through. We have a nice scrap here for P6 between Mulakala and Kapil. Kapil, after just recently completing his first pit stop, finds himself ahead of Mulakala. Hopefully he can pull away, or Mulakala can fight back for that position.
The Mercedes and the Ferrari are definitely the two best cars going into this event, so it'll be a good little scrap here between the two drivers. Kapil, a very consistent driver, will look to keep Molekula behind him for as long as possible, forcing him to almost overheat his tires and just get a little flustered under his collar. And we've often seen the mind games the drivers play with other drivers on track, so it's just a case of where Molekula can time his overtake, because it's definitely not impossible. Being in the Ferrari, a very good car in its own right, so it'll be interesting to see where he gets the overtake done. Track temperatures are dropping. The track condition is still optimum, but we are on the verge of dropping below the 20s, currently at 23 degrees, and it will only get colder as the sun sets in the sky. This race is set to go till about maybe 8:39 p.m. in game time, and about 1 hour in real life time of racing left to go.
And Casey, after serving that drive-through, comes out just behind Mulakala in P12. I think the next car up the road for him is a Ghosh, around 40 seconds or so ahead of him.
This is round about the time when drivers start thinking about their second pit stop. We do see the brilliant sun shining through the leaves there. A very picturesque track here, and it's only going to be better and better.
Yep, beautiful sunset there as the sun drops down and the night sets in, as the track temperatures start dropping below. We're expecting to see sub 20 degrees. Interesting to see how each car behaves with the brake temps and the tire temps.
Another thing that is dropping off is Molekula from Kapil. He has dropped off a little bit, maybe a second between them now. Obviously, that's not a great enough margin to decide that, or come to the conclusion that Kapil has kept his position, but maybe Molekula just worrying about his tires a bit there, also worrying about fuel usage, because the one thing the drivers don't want to do is run out of fuel prematurely.
I believe before the race, speaking to SD, he was talking about the Mercedes consuming quite a bit of fuel. He was worried that he'll have to run on a lower engine map for quite a long time. So it'll be interesting to see how it is for the other Mercedes runners.
I think that is a major factor in GT3 racing, considering in other forms of motorsport, generally fueling is not really a major aspect. In the Formula One, obviously the fueling is no longer a thing since the early 2000s, I think, was the last time we saw fueling, or was it the mid 2000s? I'll have to check up on we'll ask the guys in chat to provide us the numbers on that. But I mean, GT3 obviously still has fueling, and fueling is a very important part of endurance racing. So it's all about getting your fuel loads right. There's a battle right now between PE8 and P9, Deepak Raj and G Reddy, currently separated by about 2 seconds here. The Bentley and the Lexus. Deepak Raj having a fairly uneventful race, I think. I think he's had been here and there, but I think apart from that, it's been a fairly easy race for him. Not much really to write home about. Having to contend with the backmarker car of M. Sajid there, I think, Lamborghini. Oh no, it's the Ferrari. Terribly sorry. It is Electra and the Ferrari separates the two drivers now as G Ready is catching up steadily to Deepak Raj.
Yep, Deepak Raj has had a fairly lonely race, just doing his race on his own without getting into any major incidents. As we have Electric trying to unlap himself right behind Deepak Raj here. There was scrap between Lakla and Kapil, and Kapil managed to stay ahead to going into turn 1 so and stay on board this battle.
He also, Kapil seems to have lost a position to Young Knight ahead of him. He's dropped back to P6 after, I'm not entirely sure, but also D Knight has put 52 seconds between the two drivers. Is there a possibility that Kapil may have made his second pit stop?
Not too sure how he's fallen that far behind. Maybe trying for some moment, or probably the pit stop, as you said.
I mean, that's the only realistic possibility of losing 52 seconds to the car behind.
Yeah, I think he's pulling away from Mulakala as well. So I believe he has made that stop and changed tires. That's the only logical explanation to why he would be 52 seconds behind.
We throw it back to Deepak Raj. The gap between the two drivers, him and G Reddy, currently fighting, and the gap is less than half a second. The battle is really hotting up between the two drivers in 8th and 9th right now. Gap down to 2/10 now. The Bentley exercising its massive pace advantage, catching up Deepak Raj like he's standing still. Will he get the move done into Ascari? Yes, he will. Deepak Raj being a little too respectful, giving him all the space on the inside. And G Ready taking full opportunity of that and getting the move done. But Deepak Raj maybe will look to get the move done back again down the main straight. If he gets a good exit out of Parabolica, the chance is definitely there for him to take.
If Deepak Raj giving loads of space to that big chunky Bentley, and as a result of it loses, I think he could have been a bit more aggressive. But
The
yeah,
battle right now between Mulakala and Kapil Bharat up the road, just under 2 seconds separating the two drivers again, and I think they also have to contend with the back marker car, the leading car, Prakar Bharat, who's nearly a lap ahead. I wonder how that'll tie into the battle there between the two drivers. Seconds separates Kapil from Mulakala. Kapil on the newer tires, but I think Mulakala is carrying a little bit more pace.
absolutely.
There seems to have been a lot of gap formed between the two drivers now, and I think that battle has receded a little bit. 2 seconds now between the two drivers, nearly 4 seconds now actually between the two drivers, which leads me to believe that Mulakala may have made a mistake somewhere coming through the Lesmos. Also in the battle between G Ready and Deepak Raj has pitted, I think, and I do believe that he has conceded the position. He's no longer in 8th, he's in 9th now, with Masoom right on his bumper here.
And I believe Deepak Raj still hasn't pitted yet, so that's why he's probably losing quite a bit of pace to G Ready.
That would explain it. He's currently being blue flagged, so I mean, blue flag racing, getting blue flagged, you can only write coincidences like that.
And I believe, yep, he is diving into the pits for his second pit stop, I believe.
Deepak Raj's second and hopefully final pit stop of the race will set him up well for the final stint, allow him to just focus on getting to the checkered flag. Anirudh Sundar here currently, nearly 28 seconds behind Masoom. Masoom opening a massive gap between the drivers in P1 and 2. Initially started off as a battle separated by just 8 seconds, but Anirudh obviously not losing that advantage on warmer tyres. can see now that the drivers, we can see on the timing tree which drivers have completed 2 pit stops. And you can see that KC, Bharat, H. Kumar and G. Reddy, as the timing tree currently is displayed, have completed their pit stops, and the drivers with 1 next to their name have only completed a single pit stop. Which means that all the top order drivers still have a pit stop yet to make, which means there may yet be more drama. Just under an hour racing to go here. If you are just joining us, the top order is currently Musa Masoom, Anirudh Sundar and Shivam Das in the top 3. All 3 drivers separated by about 2 minutes. Masoom currently putting in 1:49.3s in terms of lap time. Absolutely rapid driving here from Masoom. Anirudh having to contend with... Oh, there's an overtaking chance here. A battle for P2 here. Shivam Das having closed down a massive amount of time, but I do... and it's not a pit stop. Anirudh may have made a mistake, which means that there's definitely a battle on here for P2.
Yep, absolutely. I was just about to mention that Anirudh did lose quite a bit of time to Masoom because the gap now is 33 seconds, and that's allowed SD to close right up to his gearbox. Going into turn 1, I think SD will be looking to get a little bit more closer than that as they start to turn on their headlights for the night part of this race.
This will be a crucial period of the race here. If SD can get the overtake done just before the second set of pit windows open for all these drivers, it will be a major factor going into the final stint.
Yep.
Can SD get the move done on the Raftar Racing Ferrari of Anirudh Sundar? SD right on his bumper here, less than half a tenth of a second separating the 2 drivers now. SD's Mercedes pulling ever closer. Number 21 coming through Ascari now. And will be on defensive. We have seen his skill in the past of it being able to defend his position. Placed the car incredibly well and just not offer the other driver any kind of space. It does put a wheel on the gravel there coming out of Ascari. That'll give SD a little bit of an advantage heading down to Parabolica. It all depends on how well both drivers can get a good run through Parabolica. We have seen drivers losing out here. Oversteer, understeer, everything's possible going through Parabolica, but I think it's fairly uneventful there. I think SD may have gotten a little bit of a better exit, and Anirudh dives into the pits regardless, surrendering the position, just choosing to go for the overcut.
Yep, I mean, that was a bit close for comfort there as Anirudh dived into the pits. It looked like they were really close by. But SD now will be looking to push in that clear air to try to get that overcut and into P2.
SD will be a little relieved that he didn't have to fight Anirudh for that position. Now he can focus on gaining track position through pit strategy instead, which will be a lot more favorable for both drivers as there's less skirmishes on track as a result, which could compromise both their races as opposed to pit strategy where it'll only compromise one of their races.
Yep, absolutely. I think he'll be pretty happy with his comeback drive as well. I mean, before he was fighting for P1, but to find himself in P2, not a bad comeback race.
I think another factor in SD keeping P2 in this race is whether or not Prakhar Vats will be able to put up a fight with Anirudh. Currently, Prakhar was about 15 seconds behind Anirudh when we were on board with him in the pits, and I think Prakhar Vats has taken P3, which means Anirudh will have yet another car to pass or yet another car to compete with. And we've seen in the past that Anirudh and Prakhar are good rivals on track. A couple of incidents between them in the past, a couple of very close, nervy moments between them in the ACC season we've had, sprint race season that we're having on IRC. And Bruckert, having moved up into P3, this is his first taste of the podium positions, having started the race in P20, made up fantastically well, now having to contend with the back markers here. And I do think KC and Mulakala are separated by just Bruckert in the middle, so there is a battle going on there between the back marker cars. KC also looking to tag on to the end of that battle there, as the cameras are a little wonky going through that section, but yep, the battle is well and truly on here for KC and Deepak. Oh, never mind. I think Deepak is a little further back.
Yep, Deepak's quite a bit back. And I think Mulakala is also within a second to Kapil, so it's Prakash finds himself in a bit of a mix here between the battle between Mulakala and Kapil, and hopefully can get past both of them without getting into any incidents.
Kapil and Mulakala are separated by just 3 seconds, and if anything, the smallest of mistakes can mean that that gap either comes down or increases. So Vats will look to get out of the way as quickly as possible, and he does so. And also KC will look to unlap himself. The chonky Bentley carrying a lot more pace than the Ferrari. Will he get the unlapping done by turn 1? No, he won't. Just use to stay a little bit there. We see Kapil just a little further up the road coming out of the Rettifilio there. That'll be the battle here. Mulakala versus Kapil for P6. It is important to note in that battle that Kapil has already made his pit stop. Mulakala has not, so he will have to pit.
We have KC trying to make a move into Lesmo 1, not get quite alongside, but is really close to Mulakala here, who is yet to make a pit. So I think his tires will be going off quite about now, and as he goes wide onto the gravel in Lesmo 2. I think the Bentley has got quite a good run on him as he pulls out to try to have a look down the inside. Oh, he thinks about it, but gets the car just stopped right in time to prevent any contact. Once again, I think the Bentley's gotten a much better exit than the Ferrari, and this time he's already pulled alongside. He should be able to get the move done here on Mulakala.
So I think KC is fighting to unlap himself there.
Yep, true.
So again, it's not really a skirmish for track position, but it allows KC to get into a little bit of open air and maybe chase down the drivers ahead of him. He will look to get points if he can in this race after currently being in the top 11. And Shubham Das comes into the pits, completes his set of mandatory pit stops, and I think that is Dung Knight behind him. Yep, that is Dung Knight behind him in the Ferrari. I thought it was Anirudh because it looked like his sprint race livery, but it's not.
It'll be interesting to see where he comes out relative to Anirudh, because he had just passed him. It was just past him when Anirudh had pitted. So I think he has come out ahead of Anirudh. If we can go on board. SD.
SD is now in third, so Bruckert is in second. I think SD has come out ahead of Anirudh. He's come out 9 seconds ahead of Anirudh.
Quite a bit ahead.
Overcut has worked wonders for SD there.
Yep, Anirudh losing a lot. 9 seconds. That's a massive overcut from SD. So he's put in some insane laps just before he has pitted. So props to SD for that. And I think that moves him up into a net P2.
SD well and truly on the course to get P2 here. I think Masoom is exerting his dominance here by driving a perfect race so far. He's up into P1 and has been there for quite a while now. Although he is completing his second mandatory pit stop now, it won't really make much of a difference on the timing sheets as it stands, because he is so far ahead of the rest of the grid that it may not affect him. But Bruckert is coming around the final turn. I think he will also dive into the pits this lap, and he does. Bruckert dives into the pits to complete his second pit stop.
And Masum comes out comfortably ahead of SB, around 20 seconds ahead.
SD will inherit third place, but I'm more curious to see how far behind Vats will come out to relative to Anirudh, because if Vats has a chance of getting the podium in this race, it'll be in a battle with his forever rival in the sprint race series. So it'll be. I'm very curious to see where Prakar comes out out of this current pit stop window. If he can come maybe within 10 seconds of Anirudh, 15 seconds of Anirudh, there's definitely a possibility there.
Anirudh already makes his way down to turn one, so I think Prakhar will be quite a bit behind as he is still not yet got going from the
Okay.
stop.
I think it'll be 20 plus seconds then, the gap between Vats and Sundar. It'll be interesting to see if he can actually.
And I think Prakhar is the final car in the top 5 to complete all the requirement pit stops. And as it stands, the field, the top 5 is quite a bit spread apart here, almost 20 to 30 seconds between each car.
If you are just joining us, we're currently entering the final 45 minutes of the 2.5 hours of Monza hosted by IRC on Asseto Corsa Competizione. It's been a very eventful race so far. A lot of drivers getting their elbows out, trying to get the better of other drivers through track position. Anirudh Sundar, as we're currently on board with, started P4 on the grid after qualifying P4 and currently finds himself in a podium position. Is there a possibility of getting P2? We will see. He's currently 8.8 seconds off Shubham Das in P2. SD himself, after getting a torrid start to the session, has managed to recover fantastically well, moving himself up into P2 in the number 21 Mercedes. But the so far driver of the day for me has to be Masum's controlled the pace very well and has held on to the race lead. But Anirudh will feel a little hard done by. I think there was incident or two. Oh no, I think he's lost most of the time. And then again, making a mistake there through the Della Roggia chicane. I think he might feel a little hard done by the overcuts of other drivers. He chose to undercut, and the undercut didn't quite work out, coming out 8 seconds, 7 seconds behind the cars after the pit windows elapsed. So it's definitely an interesting situation for him. I think he'll be happy with the podium in the end, but I think he would have naturally wanted more. Prakhar Vats, just behind Anirudh here in P4, has led a fantastic race thus far and is currently up into P4, 40 seconds behind Anirudh. Maybe not a possibility of making up any more positions, but we won't write off anything just yet.
Yep, and we have Kapil Bharat in P5, who, just like SD, has had a great recovery drive. Started P15 now, with all pit stops said and done, running P5, and around
we are on the
40 seconds behind Prakhar.
Indeed. We are on board here with Arjun Ghosh in the Warp Speed Mercedes, and safe to say KC carrying a lot more speed than him, goes nearly 3 seconds faster than him on that previous lap, trying to get the move done along the outside of turn 3, heading down to Della Roggia now. He has the inside line, he has the braking, he has the position. Brilliant overtake there from KC, and that officially moves him up into the top 10 and into the points. And I think it's been a while since KC has seen the points, because he has been involved in a couple of incidents, but he gets the move done there with spectacular precision.
Yeah, great move from KC there.
We will stay with this battle because it seems like Arjun Ghosh does want to get the move done back, but we will see if he can get the move done. Seems to be carrying a little bit less pace than KC, though has dropped off a bit here, 1.1 seconds between the two drivers.
Yep, and Archon Ghosh has to pit as well. So I think his tires will be dying out by now.
That is true. The gap between Prokul Bharat in P5 and Molecular in P6 is about 9 seconds there, 9.5 seconds, the gap between the two drivers. It will be interesting to see if Molecular can make up a couple of positions and maybe he makes an attempt in the next couple of laps if he can get the gap down as Ghosh dives into the pits to complete his final mandatory pit stop. And I think that is Molakala behind him, yes, who's also finishing his last mandatory pit stop.
Yep, and I believe Ghosh has damage as well because that bonnet does not look like how it should be. I think he has gotten a bit of damage as well.
Yes, does look like he has a bit of damage there. He might lose some time in the pits fixing that damage. But I think everyone on the field, as it currently stands, has completed the final pit stop, which means that I think at this point it's just a straight dash to the finish for all the drivers. Yep, it does seem that to be the case. I think there seems to be only 10 seconds separate SD and Anirudh Sundar now. There is Anirudh coming.
Yeah,
No,
that gap is just increasing right now.
That's Dung Knight actually coming through. That's Anirudh now. We're on board with Anirudh. Number 19 Ferrari. He's just behind Deepak Raj, who is just outside the top 10 in the Lexus. Unfortunate because Lexus is one of the stronger cars around the circuit. Naturally, he would have wanted or hoped for a better race, but you know, they take what is given to you. But I think the more action is a little further up the field. We'll stay on board with Anirudh though, as he looks to mount an attack on SD, dropping back a little bit though. 11 seconds now, the gap between them. Prakhar Vats, I think, will settle for P4 in this race. He is currently 40 seconds behind Anirudh in the standings as it is. I think he'll be very, very happy considering where he started P20. As there are two drivers drag racing down, is that H. Kumar and G Reddy?
It's actually Electrip and H. Kumar, I believe. I think H. Kumar just lapped Electrip there.
That does make sense. Yep, as I was mentioning earlier, Prakhar with a magnificent drive has been very consistent, no mistakes made so far, made a great recovery drive from the last place on the grid to P4. He'd be proud of that.
Oh, and Anirudh Sundar has picked up a drive-through. So I think that Prakhar Vats will be really happy with that. I'm not sure where Anirudh made the mistake. Could be in Delaroja as he had cut it the lap before.
I think we did see that Anirudh made a couple of mistakes and has been inconsistent on Della Rogia, but as you did mention there, this will be music to Prakhar's ears as Anirudh ahead of him gets a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate for Anirudh because I think he will lose that final podium place because of that drive-through. But Prakhar Vats is, I believe, 38 seconds, so I'm not really sure about the pit delta. It'll be really close, I think.
In terms of lap times, Prakhar is doing high 148s, so it'll be interesting to see just how this situation works out for him if he can keep that pace up and the consistency that he's been showing. That P3 is definitely up for grabs.
Yep, good.
Monza does have a fairly, it's not a fairly long pit lane. I mean, the entry is kind of short as well. The exit is pretty short. So it's not a long pit lane. It's not like Spot Bar, for example, where that drive-through is much, much more damaging to a driver's race. Definitely there is a possibility that Anirudh may come out ahead, but we will see as when Anirudh chooses. He has served his drive-through. He's coming through the pits right now. Prakhar Vats is coming on the back straight. I think we will stay on board with Prakhar as he comes through no, he's coming down the back straight, heading down to Parabolica now. Will he come out ahead of Anirudh? That is the thing that we have to see. He will have to get a good run through Parabolica here. Anirudh's still in the pits. Hasn't come out just yet. With just over, he has come out of the pits now with just over 40 minutes, just under 40 minutes left in the race. This will be music, as I mentioned to Praka's ears. He's cut down the distance between them from 40 seconds to just under 10 seconds, 8.6 seconds separating the two drivers now. And as I said, this will be putting a big smile on Praka's face right now, because he senses blood in the water for that P3.
Yep, absolutely. Hopefully, he'll be looking to put some good laps in and cut that gap down even more.
He's
Right now.
already carving out a significant portion there, 7.9 seconds, 7.8. Can only expect 7-second distance between them by the end of this lap, and that'll be a second and a half pretty much made up through this lap alone. So, I mean, if Prakar keeps up the current pace, there's no reason why they don't meet themselves 25 minutes left to go in the race.
Yep, this battle could end up getting very spicy indeed.
If you are on the stream, do not leave it, because we probably have some exciting stuff on the horizon in just a couple of minutes. Something that's probably not so exciting is Masoom running away with this race. Currently very comfortable in P1, 22 seconds clear of SD. I think SD may be slowly catching him, which means that there could be a little battle skirmish for P1 as well, which means this race is definitely heading up towards its final stages. I do believe SD made his pit stop after Masoom, so I'm not entirely sure. I think it was SD that pitted after Masoom.
Yep, SG pitted later.
So SD, in relative comparison, has slightly newer tires, so maybe that advantage starts to show a little bit towards the latter stages when Masoom maybe starts to maybe lose his tires a little bit towards the late stages. And obviously, track temperatures also play a major role, as we are about to drop below 20 degrees, 21 degrees the track temp now, as the sun sets and we do enter the final night portion of this race. It will play a major role, track devolution, we should say, as track temps do start to drop. And now drivers start to face problems with keeping their tires hot, keeping their tires in the optimal working condition. And I think rather than Shubham Das and Masoom, I think Vats is going to struggle with that, because that McLaren needs to be in optimum tire pressure region to extract the maximum pace. So if he wants to get the move done on Anirudh, it has to be before that track temp starts to affect the tires on his McLaren.
Yeah, and as the night creeps in, I think even the small mistakes start to creep in as well, which will slightly increase the lap times. It'll be down to who can keep it consistent, keep it quick in the night portion of the race.
If you are just joining us, we're entering the final stages of the race here, 30 minutes left, and seeing as how we are entering the night stage, the night portion of this race, about 30 minutes will be spent in the night, and it'll be an interesting conundrum, because all top four drivers have interesting dilemmas on their hands. Anirudh is being caught at a rate of about a second a lap to the driver behind him, which is Prakar Vats, who smells blood in the water relative to the podium position after Anirudh received a drive-through just a couple of laps ago. And also there is a chance that Shubham Das catches up to Masoom after being on marginally newer tires. The gap between them is 23 seconds. Maybe there's a chance of a little bit of action there, but right now the major action for us to feast our eyes on is this battle for P3. That's after starting P20, after not even putting in a lap in qualifying. In retrospect, that was an absolute masterstroke from him there, just choosing to ride the wave of chaos around him during the race. We did not have a coverage of lap 1, but he made up nearly 6 positions on the opening lap and only continued to impress. I think if he didn't have that incident with, I think it was Mulakala,
Yep, Mulakala.
a little earlier on in the race, then he definitely would be within slipstream of Anirudh right now. He lost 10-15 seconds in that incident. So definitely considering all the things that have happened, he has recovered well, and well, now he's on the attack now for P3. So keep your eyes glued to the screen because this race is going right down to the wire.
Yep, Prakash is setting the timing sheets on fire. I mean, he's closed up almost 2.5 seconds in the last 2 laps, and he's all closed up another 7 tenths in this lap as well. So really close. He's going to go right to the wire.
Going to make all the difference coming down to the final stages. Who can keep up their pace going into the night? And Prakurvat's definitely the faster driver. Anirudh doing 149s and Prakur doing 148s. Might be just a little bit of difference, but the gap is rapidly increasing or decreasing between those two drivers.
As we see H. Kumar. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say Mulakala is probably going to take the position P7 here from H. Kumar as he dives into the pits. And yes, that is the case. Yeah, go on. You were about to say something.
No, I was just about to mention about Mulakala as well.
Okay. We are currently looking for Kapil Bharat. I think he's in P5. He did briefly drop back to P6, but I think he has retaken P5 now. And briefly, I thought there was a battle there between A. Ghosh and KC, but I think they're just really close to each other.
Yeah.
Kapil also driving a very good race, started in the second half of the field and has recovered well. I think he qualified P9 or 10, and he's now in the top 5. Butts ever closer to Anirudh, the closest he's ever been for this race. 4.1 seconds separate the two, and now Anirudh is going to be eagerly looking in his rearview mirror for a little glimpse of those McLaren headlights, those two slitted headlights peering through the dark. And there's going to be definitely there's going to be blood in the water now, and the shark is slowly approaching. Is there a possibility that Anirudh defends his position? We have seen that in the past. Eccentric, what do you think?
Yep, I believe Anirudh will do everything he can to defend it while keeping it clean and not causing any incidents. I believe Anirudh got into some incidents in the previous ACC league race as well. So hopefully nothing of that sort happens as well. I mean, we were expecting the battle to heat up later in the race, but it's going at the pace that Prakhar is catching, it's probably going to catch him in the next 2 laps.
Prakhar is catching it nearly a second a lap. He was about 8 seconds after Anirudh served his drive. He was about 10 seconds when Anirudh served his drive-through, having cut the Della Roggia a number of times, and now less than 3 seconds between the two drivers. This is definitely the battle for P3. There is enough time for Anirudh to maybe allow Prakhar to overtake him and even get a couple of seconds clear, but Prakhar has to be very careful about managing his tyres, because that McLaren, as I did mention earlier in the stream, is very sensitive to tire pressure. So it is definitely going to be a case of balancing between outright pace and going for the just playing the long game. So this is definitely the battle to look out for.
Yep, and Anirudh will be absolutely kicking himself for that drive through. It was really unnecessary. And he was not in a battle with anyone. It's just down to driver error, and it's ultimately, I believe, it's going to lose him a podium place.
I think there may have been an influence of a back marker in there. I do feel like maybe he was trying to overtake a back marker and just overshot it a little bit, because you don't want to be stuck behind a back marker for too long. But even then, Anirudh was not really fighting for position. He was maybe 20 seconds clear of SD in front of him and about 40 seconds clear of Vats behind him. So one really does wonder if he needed to make that move, and he really needs to make that stick.
No, and Kapil from P5 has got a drive-through. Just picked up a drive-through.
Picked up a drive-through, I think, for exceeding track limits. Or I think it might have been at the Della Roggia, like a lot of people have encountered. But this will be, again, a big chance for Dung Knight in P6. And maybe even Mulakala in P7 to maybe potentially seek out a couple of positions. You can see the two Mercedes is coming down through there. That is A. Ghosh behind him, Arjun Ghosh in the warp speed Mercedes behind him, the 407. But this will be a chance for Dung Knight definitely in P6 to maybe mount an overtake on Couple. Couple will have to serve this as soon as possible to maybe get a chance on D Knight if he chooses to fight back for that position. But this is the battle that we should be keeping an eye on right now, and we will keep you updated on the situation with Couple a little later. But Anirudh Sundar and Vats, two former rivals, two current rivals you could say, in the ACC Sprint Race Championship. Only a couple of seconds separate the two drivers here. After being nearly 40 seconds apart, Vats, with potentially no chance of picking up a podium, is now in with a chance with just under half an hour to go. And Couple has dived into the pits, and D Knight does take the position. He does inherit P5. Couple, but it has to bequeath the position to D Knight after a reckless drive-through for him. But this is the battle as it currently stands. 1.7 seconds separate Prakhar Vats and Anirudh Sundar as we go into the final minutes of this race. It's been absolutely brilliant driving from these two so far. Anirudh may be unlucky with some of those track limit warnings at De La Rogia. I think that's the only place where he's been making a mistake. But now his attention, his focus will be fully on defending from Prakhar behind him, who has been in full attack mode right from the beginning of this race and has not looked back since.
Yep, absolutely. Tremendous drive from Prakhar, but starting from P last. And I believe Kapil has come out in P6, and actually he's right behind D Knight, if I'm not wrong. So there is a battle for P5 as well.
It's all going down in the final stages of this race. And this is why endurance racing is so beautiful, because the act is truly not over until the checkered flag drops. And that does seem to be the case. Kapil Bharat currently being lapped here by Vats. Yep, that is him being lapped by Vats. And now there's a bit of gap between the two drivers, Sundar and Vats, about 1.4 seconds between the two. And Vats will look to get the slipstream here from Kapil. I'm not really sure the effect of dirty air in GT3. I don't think there's as much of an effect, but he will at least look to get the slipstream and gets past, and the gap is now under a second between those two drivers, Vats and Sundar. This is truly the battle to be looking at. If we can go on board with Sundar, we can see just how quickly Vats has caught up to him in the span of just 5 or 6 laps. He's caught up 8 seconds, nearly a second and a half each lap, and now is when the mind games come in. Where do you mount the overtake? Where do you go for the overtake? Where do you plan it? Is there a chance that Anirudh fights back after getting overtaken? Is there a chance they both clash while overtaking? Everything is up in the air right now, and that is what we are here to witness along with you in the chat. So do let us know what is your thoughts on the outcome of this battle.
And I don't think that Prakhar will be too happy with that left car of Kapil. Just would have disturbed his rhythm trying to catch up with Anirudh. I mean, he has to get that rhythm back right now, and it seems to me he is getting it as he is closing at the same pace as he was. Under a second here, going into the two Lesmos.
It's going to be pretty much nail and tooth and nail fighting in the final stages of this race between these two drivers. Second separate the two drivers now, less than a second, I would say. 8 tenths separating the McLaren and the Ferrari now. Anirudh will be absolutely kicking himself, as you said earlier. I think he just didn't need to take that risk and just ended up taking it. And now he's having to pay for it, having to defend from one could argue the fastest driver on track right now. I mean, Parker was absolutely flying a couple of laps ago. Obviously now he's had to tune back his pace a little bit, just because he now has to plan out his overtakes. So managing your pace, managing the tires is very, very important now.
Yep, now the gap around half a second right now.
Slowly chipping away. Trucker going nearly half a tenth faster in that lap. Oh, sorry, half a second faster in that lap. My apologies. Not half a tenth. He's closing in on Anirudh at literally half a tenth a sector, I would say, or a tenth a sector. He's making up 3/10 in a lap. So right now, on his bumper, Anirudh has only McLaren in his rearview mirror right now. Let's see how this battle unfolds.
Yep, already just less than 2/10. He's getting that nice sweet slipstream, but I think he's not gonna go make a move. Make a move here. He'll try to keep as close as possible going into the two Lesmos, but he does pull out. But I mean, he's still quite a bit far back.
You can see the slit-eyed McLaren right behind him there, matching him move for move. It's almost like a dance racing. You just mirror your opponent. You don't mirror your opponent in dancing, but you mirror your opponent, you mirror your partner in a dance. You match them move for move, and eventually one person steps out of tempo and it all goes wrong. And that's pretty much how racing is. All it takes is one tiny little mistake and everything goes down the toilet. So it is. Oh, and Anirudh makes a mistake. Goes deep into the parabolic. I was just mentioning there how a mistake can cost you the race, and Anirudh will again just making a mistake, not being able to control the speed going in parabolica, and that battle ends almost half cooked there, because we really were expecting a more close battle between those two, maybe a wheel-to-wheel overtake, but Brakker Vats gets the position under relatively simple circumstances, being he didn't have to fight for the move itself, but he's been absolutely wondrous so far. The pace has been fantastic from him, and now he'll be looking to put air between him and Sundar. But now there is a chance that Sundar comes back at him. What do you think?
Yep, I think Sundar will be kicking himself. He just had a good exit and completely botched the parabolica, but I believe he is quite a bit closer, so he will be looking to stay as close to that rear wing as possible. But yeah, he just absolutely gifted the position to Prakhar Vats.
Uzair in the chat saying, I think one will prevail and one will succumb, which is just another way of saying, very fancy way of saying, someone will make a mistake and someone will pass.
Yep, I think Prakhar Vats is not pulling away as I hope he would. So they're actually keeping good pace with Prakhar, or less than. I mean, the gap is at 10th. So I think I'm not sure why was this pace when Anirudh Sundar was ahead? Because he's right now keeping up pace with Prakhar Vats.
I think with respect to racing and with respect to two drivers fighting for position, it is generally believed that the driver in front is more at pressure, obviously, but there's also an equal responsibility of the driver at the rear to keep up the pace. But the driver at the front has to not only match the pace of the driver behind, but he also has to actively try to stay ahead and defend his position. And Brakker, now being in the position that Anirudh was so many laps, seems to be doing a better job of defending his position. Anirudh just went a little bit wide at the parabolica there, maybe not as wide as he did when he conceded the position a couple of laps ago, but it's going to be hurting his chances of making that position back, as we see a couple of bullets in the background there in P6. I think that battle has resolved, and I think D Knight takes P5 and is now about 20 seconds clear of Kapil. So I think that battle is well and truly concluded, but we will write nothing off yet. This battle is the one on your screens right now. If you are just joining us, we're entering the final 20 minutes of the 2.5 hours of Monza, hosted by IRC on Asseto Corsa Competizione. Brakker Vats, after putting in a magnificent performance, clawing back a podium after starting the race in P20, after not setting a lap in qualifying, is now on the defensive from Anirudh, who got a drive-through penalty a couple of laps ago and made a mistake in the previous lap, which gifted the position to Prakarvats on a silver platter. But now the fight is well and truly on to retain that position. And let me tell you, it's not going to be easy because Anirudh is a very capable driver in his own ability.
Anirudh absolutely on the rear wing of that McLaren. Be absolutely furious with the mistake that he did and the drive to get that podium position back from Mr. Prakarvats. Oh, and he gets really close to the rear wing there. I'm not sure if it was a mistake from Prakar.
You go very, very close coming out of Parabolica there. I think a lot of the battles in this race so far have been decided at Parabolica. It's been a real it's been like a courtroom. Parabolica dishes one person the victory, another person gets sent to the Shadow Realm. So Anirudh looking to mount the move here. Of course, Vats blocks off the inside going into the Retafilio. Just over 15 minutes of racing left, so these guys will definitely have an opportunity to fight a couple more times. We are in the final stages of the Enduro, but definitely not the final stages of the race itself. Definitely enough time. We have about 10 or so laps to go until we see the checkered flag. Not much action ahead of these two drivers here. Masoom and SD fairly uneventful in their races, but this is the battle to currently be keeping your eyes on very close.
Yep, Prakar parking his car in the right places here. Like once again, it's very, very close going into the Lesmos. And you're almost kissing the bumper of Prakarvats. And Prakarvats goes a bit wide, and Anirudh as well makes a slight error. Gap goes back to 3 tenths.
Had they been any closer there through the Lesmos, there would have been a little bit of purple paint on that orange McLaren and vice versa on the Ferrari. But this has been absolutely brilliant racing from these two drivers. Truly shows why they're two of the best drivers in IRC. Not only in terms of racecraft, but also in terms of strategy. They've managed to time their move, they managed to time their attempts at taking the position to the best of their abilities. And now Anirudh has dropped off a little bit, but don't write him off from this battle just yet. Don't write him off from this battle just yet. As Dwajin in the chat points out that SD made a great recovery after that crash. Yes, he indeed did. Currently sitting in P2 and about 19 seconds of about 21 seconds of Masoom right now. But yes, you are right. After being involved in an incident early on, he has made a fantastic recovery drive. Ooh, very close there between the two drivers, having to also contend with the backmarker car of, yes, Archon Ghosh. I think Archon was coming out of the pits there, but just chose to get off the racing line, and one could say that actually impeded both drivers a little bit going into the braking zone.
Yeah, but I think Prakar had his heart in his mouth there, because he had, on the inside he had to overtake that lap car, and on the outside he had Anirudh going for a sneaky move as well. So I mean, it was very, very close between all three drivers.
Indeed, I think Anirudh is pretty much saying to Prakar at this point, you may have gotten the position, but I ain't letting you keeping it for that long. And he has dropped off a little bit now, but this battle is definitely not over, ladies and gents. But now that a little bit of a gap has formed between them, we will quickly peel away to have a look at the rest of the grid, see if there have been any major changes in position anywhere else. I don't think there has been. I think Deepak Raj is still outside the top 10, but I think this battle is the one to keep an eye on. I think P5 and 6, I think Kapil was involved with a battle with P5, but I think there is a little bit of a gap between them now. Yep, 20 seconds almost between P5 and P6, and almost the same between P4 and P5. But this is going to be the battle now in the final stages of this race, and I do think that backmarker car of Archon has made a big difference in this battle, because it's purely unintentional, but just got involved in that little skirmish there, and just just managed to unsettle the flow of those two drivers, maybe more so Anirudh than he did for Prakar Vats.
Absolutely, and speaking of battles, there is a battle for P9 here between H. Kumar and KC. The gap is almost similar to the gap between Anirudh and Prakar, which is around 1.6 to 1.7 seconds. So this is another battle we could keep an eye on. But the main battle here is for that podium place. where Anirudh will be trying to get that gap back down from 1.9 seconds.
The ambient light has well and truly gone. Whatever residual sunlight was present during the initial stages of this night portion has completely gone now, and it is now, well, it's not perfect darkness, but it is as dark as it will get during this race, and it is absolutely wheel-to-wheel action that we've seen from all the drivers so far. And Drucker just putting a little bit of time now, just a little bit of air, 2 seconds between him and Sundar now. I doubt Sundar's going to let him get away that easily. Obviously, Drucker did defend his position very well, but I think it's not exactly written in stone just yet. I think there is going to definitely be another attempt.
Yep, Anirudh will be trying to get that back down, but I feel Prakhar is slightly pulling away as the gap goes to 2.2. As H. Kumar, was it, or Casey, completely cuts turn 1. And I'm not sure if it was Casey. It was Electric, I believe, who completely cut turn 1. I mean, but he's a lap car, so I'm not sure if that really matters there.
Tell you what, Electrip has driven a fairly consistent race, not getting into many incidents, not having any big spins or major hairy moments coming out of any corners. I think for a person who's only recently taken a serious interest in GT3 cars, it's an incredible performance from him, and I only hope that he builds on these performances a little more, as we can see those lovely lights cutting through the night here. SD about 20 seconds off Marsoom. I don't think Marsoom has too much to be worried about here. I think both drivers, their paces have been fairly equalized, and they've managed to maintain that 20-second buffer between them.
Speaking of that P9 battle, I think Casey has made a mistake because he's somehow found himself around 15 to 20 seconds behind H. Kumar. So not sure where he lost out there. If we can go back on board with Prakhar to see what the latest gap is to Anirudh.
I think he has opened up a little bit of a gap there, 2.5 seconds between them. You can see the blue flashes of flames coming out of Prekka's exhausts there. The McLaren has been, I think he's driven that car to perfection, and that truly shows his understanding of the car more than anything. But I do think, I feel really bad for Anirudh. I think he himself will be disappointed with his performance. Not necessarily throughout the race, but maybe those last couple, 10, 15, 20 laps of the race where it just kind of got away from him, and the penalties and the drive-through definitely affected his race. I think that was the major turning point in this battle.
Yep, he just needed a bit of luck there, and it did not come to him with that bit of a back marker incident with Arpan Ghosh. But I mean, still possible. 2.6 seconds is not a lot of time, and he could somehow, if he can mount a comeback here, put himself back within the rear wing of that McLaren. But I do believe the gap is continuing to open up, so I think Rucker has this in the bag unless something drastic happens. As we enter the last 10 minutes of this amazing 2.5-hour race hosted by the Indian racing community on Asseto Corsa Competizione. It's been a brilliant race, a lot of battles, and a lot of wheel-to-wheel battles, a lot of punts as well. And that is what we are here for, some exciting battles and some good racing as well.
And we did have a fairly uneventful start to the stream, but it has picked up, and it has really had a crescendo climax towards the end. This is the kind of racing that we are rewarded with for persevering with this stream, and it's a good thing that we did, because we would not be seeing this battle with Prakhar as he's desperately flashing at Deepak Raj there to get out of my way, and Deepak Raj obliges by going as wide as physically possible coming out of Parabolica. Prakhar now is 4 seconds clear of Anirudh, putting a lot of air between him and Anirudh, and I don't want to be the one to resign this battle, but it does seem like Anirudh is dropping back and he's not able to keep on the pace of Prakar. Prakar is doing sort of high 149s and Anirudh's doing high 151s.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted this battle to be so much more, but I feel believe Prakarwats has got P3 in the bag.
I think Anirudh may have pushed a little beyond the threshold of his tires, and I think he's just had to, let off the pace a little bit to compensate for that. Also, with decreasing track temps, I think it gets harder to battle and keep tires in their optimal working condition. So I think I'll be curious to see if Anirudh goes for another big push towards the last 5 or so minutes. I mean, there is motivation and potential there that if he gets the move done in the final laps, then it doesn't allow Proctor much time to recalibrate and go for another attack. But it all comes down to whether or not Anirudh can close the gap. But right now, he seems to be just having a bit of trouble getting past Deepak Raj here.
Yeah. I mean, we shouldn't forget that Anirudh was the driver who went for that aggressive undercut on both pit stops. So I think his tires will be dying out right now, which explains why he's falling so far back from Prakarwats.
Aggressive undercuts, which in retrospect have not worked out brilliantly for him. I think when you look at when you review the race right from the beginning, the 2.5 hours, I think Anirudh has had an up and down race, which is very uncharacteristic of him. I think generally he's a very consistent driver, and mistakes are very uncharacteristic of him. But I think either driver of the day should go to either Prakar or not so Musa Masoom, currently in P1. We haven't really talked much about P1 because it's been a fairly uncontested position. So I keep saying Prakar. Masoom has been in pretty much clean air right from the beginning. SD as well. SD made a brilliant comeback drive as well in his own right. But yeah, what have been your thoughts so far as we enter this final stage of the race?
Yep, I mean, completely agree with you with saying that Prakar or Masoom should get driver of the day. But I mean, I was hoping for a better battle for P1, but nonetheless, it's been an absolutely dominant drive from Musa Masoom. Oh, and who is that pointing in the wrong direction? That's Electrip. And I think he's just lost it out of Lesmo too, I believe.
I think considering that he's on the tail end of his stint, and this is, I think, his first endurance in ACC, I think that we can forgive him for that. And he hasn't lost a position; he's still in P13. So, good effort there from Electrip with, I'd say, very little practice, very little experience here on Monza. I think he's done very well, and I think with the force feedback on his wheel, he may have hurt his hand a little bit because he's weaving a little bit all over the place.
There seems to be a joke going on in IRC where he does not drive the fanatic drives him instead.
Seems entirely possible. Also, I do believe we have forgotten to talk about the fact that the lead of the race has just changed. Masoom has pit.
What just happened there?
I'm not entirely sure, but we have race controllers just informed us of the fact that Masoom has pit. I think he may have had a spin or damage or something. Masoom has lost more positions.
He's in P4. In the final 5 minutes of the race, Masoom's race has completely unraveled here.
Oh,
I mean,
no.
I don't believe what I'm seeing.
I mean, just a few minutes ago, we were talking about Masoom potentially a candidate for driver of the day. Does this someone in the chat, Sarthak in the chat, has just pointed out that it's probably low fuel. That's an interesting perspective, actually. That could be one of the potential reasons why he pits in.
Yeah, that could be one of the reasons. But I mean, I feel very bad for Masoom because I mean he was comfortably in the lead of the race, dominating. But yeah, in the final dying moments of the race, I believe he has run out of fuel. I mean, that's possibly the only explanation here.
I mean, one would assume that he had the margin to pit and still stay ahead of SD, but SD has just absolutely blown him away here. And I think he was in the pits for so long that that I think he might be a lap down on SD now.
Yep, he is actually a lap down on SD.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing.
No,
I mean,
that is.
that is a big spin on the stream. I mean, I feel terrible for Masoom, but that is very amazing circumstances which have allowed SD, which has allowed SD to inherit the race lead. And guess what? I think that does this swing your vote for driver of the day?
I mean, I don't want to, but I feel it should, because I mean that's kind of an elementary mistake. I mean, not really elementary mistake, but it's still a mistake nonetheless. Not calculating the right amount of fuel, if that is indeed the reason. But I mean, it's really unfortunate for Masoom what happened.
Also, potential incident that may have happened, and we're not entirely sure that it's down to fuel. Maybe we'll have a chat with Masoom post-race and find out exactly what happened. But there's also speculation that the incident where Electrip spun, there was contact between him and Masoom had damage. But maybe does it really warrant a pit stop to fix that damage? And unless it was really very bad damage, and he had to pit under the extreme circumstances, he would have lost 5-6 seconds a lap. But
Yep, a lot of possibilities as to what has happened. I would love to get him into the commentary box after the race to ask what has happened. But yeah, as it stands, Shubham Das takes the lead of the race with Prakhar Vats in P2, and Anirudh Sundar, we were talking about his podium position going, has gone up into the podium positions in P3 as a result of Masoom's bad luck.
I think it's
Yeah.
been unpredictable after unpredictable element. And I mean, it's very disappointing that this race is rounded off with a huge stroke of bad luck for Masoom. But I mean, guess someone who's going to be spared their blushes is Anirudh. After making, you could say, uncharacteristic errors from him, he has managed to salvage a podium when it seemed he would be a lot higher. And guess what? Prakhar Vats is absolutely flying. 149 still. So late in the race. I mean, I think now the driver of the day, which was a tough call between Prakhar and Masoom, I think it has to go to Prakhar, considering he started P20, and he's currently now only one position off the race win. I mean, it's got to be.
Yep, absolutely. I think it should be him as driver of the day. Coming from P20 to P2 is no joke indeed. And he has done it in quite dominating fashion, and is still, I believe, the fastest man on track right now, comfortably.
Yep, definitely. And with less than a minute to go here, we will go on board with SD and see if this will be the last lap or if this will be the penultimate lap on board with SD here. And this will be the penultimate lap. As SD get us started on the last lap, I think we will stay on board with SD. And I think we need to commend him on the job that he's done as well, because it's been a fantastic race from him. Managed his pit stops well, managed to recover well from an incident between him and Anirudh earlier on in the race at Ascari. As pointed out by someone in the chat, he had a Vettel 2019 moment where he spun around in Ascari and proceeded to block the track for other people. But I think it's been a good drive from SD, all things considered. It's been a consistent drive from him, and he's managed to make the most of the situation. I think he's put in a fantastic drive. Prakhar as well, he's done incredibly well considering the circumstances. Started P20 and has made up 18 positions in the span of 2 hours. I mean, yes, there were incidents in between. One could say there's probably even a chance Prakhar was on the top step today if he had not been involved in that incident with Mulakala down at turn 1. But yeah, it's been a fantastic race. I'm very glad to have witnessed all of them. Very glad that eventually the stream did work out, and we haven't had any issues since then. Huge thanks to the guys working back here, in the background at the streaming center of IRC. It's been a fantastic experience. And as SD rounds Ascari for the final time, fairly drama-free race for him, apart from that little skirmish at T1. My mistake, a little skirmish at Ascari. He rounds the final corner, eccentric, take him to the checkered flag.
Yeah, as he rounds the final corner, I mean, he should have been, without question, winning the race if he had not had that incident. And indeed, he wins the race as he crosses the line in P1. Parvat's, I mean, I think he's quite a bit far behind, but he should be taking P2 comfortably, with Anirudh Sundar not far behind in P3. Parvat's rounding Ascari for the final time right now. My driver of the day, and I believe should be given driver of the day as well by majority of chat. And approaching Parabolica for the final time, going to come home in P2 after starting from dead last after not putting a single qualifying lap. And I was hoping for a better battle for P2 between him and Sundar, but it is what it is. And I think he will be very happy with the P2 position. As we go on board with Anirudh Sundar. Wait, is Masum in the pit again? Not sure what happened there.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day it was an unfortunate race for him, but
Yeah, I mean, I feel really bad for Masum as to what happened there. As they have all the lap cars completing their races.
and it's been a fantastic stream for us in the commentary box. You can see the fireworks in the background, and it's been an eventful race. It's been an emotional roller coaster, not only for us but also for the drivers. In the end, very unlucky for Masoom, but it was a fantastic race, and but it was nothing short of brilliant from SD as well. And I think it goes to show just how unpredictable endurance racing can be. Anyways, let us. I think it's now time to go to the podium interviews, and we will have a little chat with the top 3 drivers, maybe Masoom
Yep.
as well. But
ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere as we get our top 3 podium finishers in the voice channel for a quick chat.
also, do let us know, whoever is watching in the chat, who is your driver of the day. Please let us know as quickly as you can, because the drivers will very soon be on the podium, and we want to let them know just how much you appreciate their performances today.
Green light. Go, go, go.
I think we have one driver in the podium interview. A couple of drivers joining us now. A couple of people in the chat think Eitzel is my driver of the day. I haven't driven, so that's not possible. Anyways, we'll have a little chat with I think Masoom is here as well. Yes. I think before we get the podium interviews underway, I think we need to have a chat, Masoom, because that was extremely unfortunate what happened there in the final stages of the race. Oh, is Masoom not available? Okay.
Your volume is too low, Itzel. I think that's why we're not able to hear you.
Hello, what's up?
Oh, right. Okay. Masoom, unfortunate there in the final stages of the race for you then. We didn't exactly catch what happened on the stream, so if you could enlighten us as to what exactly unfolded.
Yeah, I mean, I was too tired in the last stint, so I just like didn't had a lapse of concentration and just hit the curb, and that was that.
Oh, well, unlucky considering all circumstances. In the end, you didn't finish where you were supposed to. Led a brilliant race, dominant race, but ultimately unlucky for you, man. But we will have a chat now with SD Shubham Das, our winner for today. SD, are you there?
Yes. Hello. What's up?
Brilliant race from you there. Brilliant comeback as well. What are your thoughts on the race?
Yeah, definitely. I knew going into the race that there's either going to be death into turn one or it's going to be a battle with Masoom throughout the entire race. But yeah, I mean, there was carnage at turn one, but after that, yeah, it was pretty straightforward. But I think, unfortunately for Anirudh and myself, I think I got touched going into Ascari, and that was due to lag. Probably that's what was the consensus on the VC. But yeah, after that it was a good battle with the people down in the top 10. But yeah,
Mm.
my strategy was the best, I feel, for this, because I pitted exactly when the track temp dropped by 2 to 3 degrees, and my tire temperature was exactly what was needed. So yeah, it's a good recovery. My sympathies to Masoom. He should have won it definitely. But yeah, that's what happens in an endurance race. One small lapse of concentration, and you're back at the back of the grid.
I mean, it also shows that across the 2.5 hours, many unpredictable things can happen. If someone had been following your progress in the race and seen that you had dropped back, 10 positions after the first 20 minutes, then there's certainly motivation there to say, oh, the race is over. But definitely you proved them all wrong, and I don't think there's any doubt in that. But you are, I think, the winner today. I don't think you are the winner today. Congratulations on a fantastic race, and you controlled it really, really well.
Thank you so much.
And I think eccentric, if you can get us kicked off with Prakar's interview.
Prakhar, congrats on the P2 position, starting dead last, and talk us through your qualifying. And I believe you had a couple of incidents in the race as well, and a good battle with Anirudh towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, it was 2.4 hours. I didn't feel bored for even 1 second. I think that, I mean, 2 hours and 30 minutes, it kind of takes a toll on you after the first hour. So my left knee was kind of feeling it after the first hour, but I just really enjoyed every moment of it. And taking you through the entire kind of race for myself, I think quali I did not choose to qualify because I was just not, I didn't want to, I just had no intention of winning this, so doing that good in this race. I just wanted to prepare myself for what's coming forward. So we have the 12 hours of Nürburgring, and I thought, if I can start way from behind and you know try to climb up through the field, it'll be good practice for what's to come, what's coming in the future. So that was my only objective. And there were so many incidents. I think I got punted twice, I spun twice, I touched somebody in the first stint itself. So I mean, yeah, in the first stint I had 18 seconds of damage, and I was doing 50, I mean, I was in the high 50s. So that was kind of pathetic. But once I repaired all the damage and I was on fresh tires, I was consistently doing 48 eights, and I had a personal best of 48.6. So I think, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll take that any day of the week, starting last and finishing P2. I mean, it's fine. I couldn't have asked for more.
Did you prepare this answer 10 minutes the
No, no,
moment
no.
the race ended?
Yeah, I was writing it down on my
He
phone.
has us all written down.
I think I have to say it's ace.
It's okay, dude. There are no points associated with a good answer, so
Lol.
I mean, it's just another case of ACC rookie makes massive comeback, isn't it? That was the master plan right from the
yeah.
beginning. But
Yep.
I think based on the performance, and I also want to ask you, you've mentioned in the past how the McLaren needs optimum tire pressures. What was your general sort of mindset going into the night section of the race?
So I kind of, I kind of knew what to expect. So I knew that towards the end, I did a practice session yesterday. So I just kind of noted down the temperature. So I knew that it was going to be towards the end, it was going to be 19 degrees. So I kind of adjusted my tire pressures accordingly. So I think towards the end, it was like I was absolutely perfect with it. So I was on the straights, it was 27.5, and into corners, I think in the middle sector, it was 27.8. So I think in the perfect window. And yeah, I think all those, I mean, I just didn't have to make mistakes. That is everything I expected out of myself, and I didn't. So I think, yeah, that I was happy with that.
Well, Tucker, in the same way that your tire management was perfect, your race was perfect, and I think you've got our driver of the day from P20.
Thank you, thanks a lot.
And we'll have a talk with the driver who's in P3, who might have felt that he should have been in P2. Anirudh, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Unlucky considering the grand scheme of things. A couple of uncharacteristic mistakes from your side. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I just made a mistake with my pressures in the last stint, and I was floating with 26 psi everywhere. Yeah, that's it. That was a long stint, and it's bound to give you a similar result. So nothing much there.
We saw briefly that you were fighting back with Brucker after he briefly overtook you at Parabolica. We saw that you were back up with him, and then you started to drop off a little bit. What was the reason behind that?
Yeah, so I was somehow like I had sort of brought down my traction settings so that I was getting temperatures on my tires a bit. And following Prakhar, it sort of kept my tires warm too. But when we were trying to pass the back marker, there's a big gap, and once that gap formed, my tire temperature started dropping again. So I had no chance. Just stayed where I was.
Well, anyways, it was a good race from you, regardless of those mistakes, and in the end, you were rewarded with a podium for your efforts. So congratulations, and of course, good luck to our drivers who are participating in the upcoming 12 hours of Nürburgring. And I think that's going to be everything from us in the stream, in the commentary box here today. Thank you very much for watching. This has been 8 Cylinders of Fury and my fellow co-commentator Eccentric. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you another time. Goodbye.
Slight error.